items. We're approving the concept of the settlement and the dollar amount of the settlement, and leaving it to trust our legal counsel to execute that concept in the proper legal manner with all the proper legal signatures and things that need to accomplish. Are there any other comments from the board, Mr. Tappan?
You covered it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's correct. Thank you, President Godey.
Seeing no other comments from the board, Madam Secretary?
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is item I-2, consideration of request to accept the resignation and the approval of the resignation agreement with Mrs. Leslie Brown. Do I have a motion by Mr. Ballou? A second? I have a second by Mr. Lannis. Are there any questions and comments from the board? Seeing none, any questions or comments from the audience? And here, Madam Secretary, there are some comments. Is it under the wrong item? Item I-2? Okay. Okay. Some of these may be, yes. First, this is under item I-2 from the internet. This is from Matt Siraj. Strongly supports search resolution as written. Proven leadership needed now. 4 strong prospects, Smith, Tamal, Towns, and Tug. Strongly object to starting over with search, reducing or expanding the field of 4 prospects. Comments, decisive action serves children best. There is no risk to accept the results of the previous search. There is no risk to engage the 4 remaining prospects. There is no risk to confirm the selection criteria. Next is from Archer Herbert, not Hebert, but Herbert. God bless Mrs. Brown and her poor family. With all due respect to the privacy of the former superintendent, the people deserve to know if the deterioration is COVID-19 related. This was opportunity to model an appropriate response when leadership falls ill, but instead privacy was offered with no acknowledgement of the ongoing pandemic. Even if it's not COVID related, a simple statement goes a long way. How do staff continue to work in schools when they can't be sure if their leaders will even acknowledge the pandemic? The messaging was paternalistic, and acting like the staff should just chin up, mind their business, and keep working is an insult and yet another example of white supremacy within this system. Thank you to all the teachers, staff, and families who choose to get tested because they care about our community. The next superintendent contract needs to include public disclosure of all COVID testing and related illnesses. Bless us, each and every one. From Jasmine Pogue. Just a comment to share my warm wishes for the good health of Mrs. Brown. I appreciate her always being open to having discussion with me and my organization and her enthusiasm in becoming EBR school superintendent. Please share my regards with her. And next is from Jonathan, which is unrelated to this. But I'm going to read it. What is the update on Principal Rob Howe with Liberty, and what is being done about the petition that has over 500 signatures? That is the end of the comments on item I-2. Are there any other comments from the audience or the board? I'm going to refresh one more time. Seeing none, Madam Secretary?
Please vote. The motion Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next is item I3, a resolution regarding the superintendent search. Mr. Lannis.
Thank you. Resolution to fill East Baton Rouge Parish School System Superintendent vacancy. Whereas East Baton Rouge Parish School System has an immediate superintendent vacancy due to the resignation and departure of Ms. Leslie Brown. Whereas East Baton Rouge Parish School Board has an obligatory duty to its families, employees, students, and taxpayers to fill the superintendent vacancy in a timely manner that reflects urgent responsiveness. Whereas East Baton Rouge Parish School System, under the governing authority of the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, voted for and approved a superintendent search process to be conducted by JG Consultants at the cost of $25,000. Whereas during the superintendent search process, JG Consultants identified several candidates at the request of the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board to be vetted and interviewed. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board in regular session duly convened that JG Consultants is directed to pursue and complete the following actions. 1. Invite the top 4 candidates from the previous East Baton Rouge Parish School System Superintendent search process to be reconsidered for the role, who are as follows. A. Adam Smith. B. Quintina Tamal. C. T. Nakia Thomas. D. Marshall Tuck. 2. Provide 30-day notice prior to fulfilling the vacancy, informing the public of the superintendent selection process. 3. Reopen all candidate portals, online interviews, and community surveys that include public feedback pertaining to the superintendent search process involving all said candidates above. 4. Authorize staff to advertise for the position of superintendent in compliance with the law. 5. The superintendent selection process be completed at a meeting of the board following all advertising and time delay requirements. Be it further resolved that JG Consultants, along with the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, provide a full update on progress regarding this matter at the November Committee of the Whole meeting and evidence of its completion at the November regular board meeting. I so move.
Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion? The motion dies for lack of a second. Oh, Ms. Ware Jackson, will you second? Okay. So it's been moved by Mr. Lannis and seconded by Ms. Ware Jackson. Are there any comments from the board? Mr. Howard, do you wish to comment? Oh, okay. Mr. Howard. It hadn't popped up in my screen yet. I'm sorry. Mr. Howard.
So yeah, I just want to make a few comments. Thank you for the resolution, Mr. Lannis, and hoping that we get to a space where we can find a permanent leader for our district. So I think we went through a very transparent and robust process to get to the finalists. That process included community meetings, town halls, and access to applications and on-demand interviews. During our final round of interviews, many of you stated the desire to hire both of our finalists. However, we were only allowed to hire one. In a very tight race of a 5-4 vote, Mrs. Brown was selected as our superintendent. It is unfortunate that we find ourselves in the situation that we are with what happened with the emergency medical leave for Ms. Brown. But I believe that we are doing ourselves, our community, and our students a disservice by not at least considering our sole finalist as a standalone candidate to replace our outgoing superintendent. As a board, we have the obligation to ensure quality, effective leadership is in place to lead our system. As a society, we are battling dual pandemics. COVID-19 has taken over 200,000 American lives. Racial unrest is driving our nation further apart. We don't have any more time. We must get this right. Many of you watched the NBA Finals last week and watched the unthinkable as LeBron James completed the unthinkable of leading his third NBA franchise to the promised land. If for any reason the Lakers have to forfeit their championship, would the league call every single team that was in the bubble, or would they call the other finalists who competed in the championship? The answer is simple. At this time, I would like to introduce a friendly amendment to this motion or this resolution that we as a board consider approval of Dr. Latia Towns as a sole finalist for the position of superintendent. I've had a conversation with the board attorney, and this goes into our legal matters.
So, Madam Secretary, did you get the substitute motion? And is there a second to the substitute motion? Or what, it was a friendly amendment?
Amendment to the original motion.
It's a friendly amendment. Do you accept the friendly amendment as the author of the
I
resolution?
accept.
And Ms. Ware Jackson, do you accept? So the friendly amendment is accepted, but we need the wording.
Yes, the friendly amendment states that we would consider as a sole finalist for the position of superintendent, our sole remaining finalist, which is Dr. Nakia Towns.
Vice President Howard and President Dobie, I do want to clarify that the law does require, prior to appointing a permanent superintendent, that the board advertise the position, put the public on notice, and also receive applications for additional applicants, and that's a requirement of the law. So the resolution as written does have to allow that, and I want to make sure that that's clear to all board members who vote here.
Yes, so that is my understanding. And my only really amendment to the resolution is that all four candidates are not considered. We're considering the sole finalists, and those things still are in line with applications being open as well as advertising and all the other things that are related to legal matters.
So we have the amendment, the friendly amendment to the resolution is now on the table. Are there any other requests to speak? Mr. Lannis, was that a prior request you had on the board?
No.
Or would you like to speak now, or that was a prior request?
I'll go ahead and speak now. And in speaking, that was a student that sent me an email, and it really touched my heart, and I really want to read this email tonight. Her name is Miss Sydney Johnson Brown, and she's a senior at Baton Rouge High School. And she said, my name is Miss Sydney Johnson Brown. I'm a senior at Baton Rouge High School. I'm a resident in the 70805 zip code. Coming up in this area, we didn't have a middle school nor a high school. I had to go to school outside of my district. You get to a point that you get used to not having as much in 70805. But I shouldn't have to get used to not having a great superintendent in East Baton Rouge Parish. Can we get this right and select the superintendent now and not waste time? To Ms. Sydney Johnson Brown, I stand behind you 110%. And it's the reason why. I understand that there may be some that want to complete an entirely new search. But these are my concerns. One, that search would not be able to effectively take place until January or spring 2021, because you still have the Thanksgiving break that's coming up next month, and you also have the Christmas break that's coming up. That's 3 weeks that we lose, almost a month that we would lose. Two, the timeliness of all of this. It'll take us at least 6 months to effectively conduct the search, not including another month to negotiate the next superintendent's contract. That's 7 months that we lose. Due to the time constraints, it would be nearly impossible for us to create a strategic plan because our school board election will take place in 2022. The community as a whole supports selecting a superintendent from the last soup search by selecting from the top 4 candidates. And I just really want us to think about this. With COVID-19 pandemic happening, teacher walkouts taking place, school closures due to those walkouts taking place, and this uncertainty around schools being cleaned inside of our school buildings, we need leadership now. No matter who it is off that list, I'm willing to put aside all petty differences to see that we select somebody so that our system can move forward. We do not have time to wait, and I would only ask that all of our board members tonight strongly consider selecting someone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lannis. Mr. Howard, you're back in the queue. Okay, Ms. Collins?
I just would like to request a roll call.
Thank you, ma'am. So noted. Are there any other comments from the board? Ms. Ware Jackson.
Thank you, President Godin. We had a long and thorough search. We had lots of input from the community, from the board, and we had 2 finalists, and I constantly heard people say when we had those larger community meetings at the tech park, where every board member had the opportunity to ask at least 8 people to attend. And I spoke with a lot of people there, including, of course, I kept in close contact with the 10 that I got in there, and had them all give me feedback, and every one of them told me that they felt very confident in the 2 candidates that we had brought forth as the finalists, and that our district would be in great hands with either one of those candidates. So although my vote at the time went towards Dr. Towns, when Mrs. Brown was chosen, I took comfort in that, knowing that the community was in support of both of those candidates. We had board members who said the same things about, we wish we could hire both of them. And here we are now in a situation where we actually would be hiring both of them, unfortunately. But, we can't predict what's going to happen. I feel horrible about not being able to move forward with Mrs. Brown. I was in full support of her, and really appreciated what she was going to bring to the district. And now we have the opportunity to just go to the second choice. It was a 5-4 vote, and it's not like it was a unanimous decision around Mrs. Brown. Dr. Towns definitely had support. So I would encourage us to simply go to our number 2 candidate and move her into this position, because time is of the essence. There is so much at stake. The holidays are among us just about. When we turn around, it's going to be Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I think it would send a really good message. I've gotten tons of calls and emails and text messages encouraging us to do just that. So I would hope that we would be able to do that and quickly fill that position and move forward. And if you look at what's happening in the district where she is, I think it would give you confidence around what's happening with COVID and with distance learning and the hybrid as well. So I just encourage the board to support that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Ware Jackson. Mr. Lannis, do you wish to speak again?
Yes, sir. And I just want to reiterate a few things from my colleague, Ms. Ware Jackson. One, we don't lose with this election. The number 1 school district in Tennessee, which just came out about 2 weeks ago, is Hamilton County. That's the same district that Dr. Towns is a part of. That is the type of leadership that we need to lead our school district to move us forward. And I would only hope that tonight, when we get ready to vote, we're not voting with our personal convictions, but we're voting on the convictions of our residents, our taxpayers, but most importantly, our students, because they are the ones that need this the most. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lannis. Ms. Collins?
Just one small comment that I'm sure all my colleagues, but especially speaking for myself, every single vote I take is with my constituents in mind. So when I say I vote my conscience, I am voting my constituents. I just want to make that clear.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Any other comments from the board at this time? Seeing none, next we will go to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience in person that would like to speak? And I will begin reading the online comments while people are coming up. Is someone coming up? Thank you. I will wait.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tanya Nyman. I'm a parent with 2 kids in East Baton Rouge Parish Public Schools. I thought that these remarks would be more relevant to the item about a superintendent search firm, but because the resolution contains language authorizing you to hire JG consultants, I know that the friendly amendment seems to have altered that somewhat, but I still want to, in an abundance of caution, make sure that I ask that you not hire a search firm and that you certainly not hire JG consultants. Its CEO identifies himself as a education reformer, and for those who haven't been following education advocacy issues, reformers generally promote the privatization of our public schools. That is not the overwhelming will of the stakeholders, the immediate stakeholders, parents and teachers, and so I don't think that they will produce a short list that embraces our values or takes our concerns to heart. So, not sure where that stands with this friendly amendment, but I wanted to make sure I made that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nyman. Are there any other in-person comments?
Dr. Jacqueline Mims. Much has been said that I could agree with. Much has been said that I take exception with, or perhaps my perspective is a little bit different. I'm not convinced that it was really a fair, open process that involved the community, for one. But more importantly for me, even then and now, I did not believe that we should have been moving forward with a search, given the pandemic and the fact that we were trying to end school at the same time we were trying to start school. As an educator, as a former board member, I understand that these processes, both to end the school year and to start a school year, requires a great deal of attention by all involved, particularly our leadership team and our staff. So I thought then that there should have been a delay, and I think now there should be a delay. We deserve the best superintendent that we can possibly find. I have concerns with the search firm, whether or not they were as objective as they could possibly be. And I won't use up all of my time dealing with that, but that concern still is present for me. I don't believe that we had the best candidates that we could have possibly found. And I would hope that we would give ourselves an honest opportunity to find the best that we could. I would also like to say that we need stability, and we need stability right now. Someone who is familiar with our district, our community, and our school district family. One who is respected and accepted in both arenas, the community and the school district. This is not the time for us to experiment. I felt that way before. I still feel that way. We need stability, and for stability, if you're truly interested in selecting one of the 4 candidates, then I would be the person who is most familiar with this district already. So I would ask that you would give that consideration. I think to bring anyone in new, there is a learning curve. I have been in an executive leadership position. And a learning curve takes time. Time to learn the district and time to learn the community. We don't have that kind of time today. But for those of you that are promoting a search, then I would say, delay your search until we have time. And right now is not the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, board members. Hello, my name is Joy Johnson. I'm a Stand for Children member, and I represent dozens of my peers, the students of East Baton Rouge Parish. I'm a senior at D. Estrema High School. I love my district and my school. This year has already thrown us a curveball with the severe virus still in play. Coronavirus has taken me to a place I never quite imagined. I am one of the many virtual students who have pre-existing health-lining conditions. I have asthma and my health matters, and so does the health and safety of my peers and our teachers. My school year matters too. Unfortunately, with our former superintendent, Ms. Leslie Brown, leaving, students are now at a disadvantage. We need a head-on, hands-on, action-oriented, supportive superintendent to lead me, my peers, and our teachers. We're not interested in doing things the way that we've always done them. We need a strong, smart, innovative leader. Our district deserves a superintendent now. We need to move swiftly and efficiently and make the right choice. East Baton Rouge Parish is moving up towards a brighter and better future, and we deserve better than the same old leadership style that has under-deserved too many communities for too long. We as students have been through a lot over the past few years, and we are now in the midst of the pandemic with certain rules and new makings. We need a leader, a great one. We ask the school board and its members to act quickly and transparently to hire a top talent leader for our students and our educators. And I just want you guys to really just take the time to pick the right superintendent, because this is my senior year and it really matters. And my other fellow peers and siblings that are coming up, they have a choice and they matter too. So thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Good evening. My name is Shakita Tatum Brown. I'm a mother of 3, and I represent hundreds of parents as members of Stand for Children Louisiana. More than 50 parents have signed on to an open letter urging you all to quickly and efficiently name a top talent superintendent to lead this district, our teachers, and most importantly, our kids. They need strong leadership now more than ever. We can't settle for the same undeserved our kids for far too long. The board ran a search and chose the best candidate. That means there's no one out there that's better than what you selected as our finalist. The statistics say that if my black son is not succeeding by 3rd grade, he'll be left behind. Well, my son is in the 3rd grade, being failed by a school board who can't seem to come together as one that chooses strong, passionate, efficient, competent, culturally leader. I do my part as a parent so that he won't be a statistic. Please don't fail my children and do a long search. Your search is already available. This is an open letter. 2020 has been a difficult year, not just for EPR, but for our country and the whole world. A year like this calls for strong leadership for our students and families. We're living through a pandemic, an unprecedented hurricane season, and families are still trying to navigate virtual and hybrid learning after missing out more than 3 months of learning last year. Thanks to your hard work on the recent superintendent search, Ms. Leslie Brown, an extremely talented leader with a wealth of experience, stood ready to lead our school system to positive change. Superintendent Brown came to EBR with a vision to move our students and our schools forward. Her unexpected resignation has shocked us all, and we continue to pray for Superintendent Brown and her family at this time. It is our hope that this board will act quickly, transparently, and efficiently to find and hire a permanent, high-quality, equity, and student-centered leader with a proven record of leading transformational change that results in improved outcomes for all students, particularly those who have been historically undeserved in our city. We will not take anything less than the talent and experience of someone like Mrs. Leslie Brown. Earlier this year, you worked hard to ensure thoughtful, thorough, and transparent search for a superintendent. Earlier this year, that provided multiple opportunities for community engagement that led to an outstanding list of candidates who were more than capable of leading the hard and good work that needs to be done. While we're not at a place we desire now, the process implemented earlier this year has set up and moved swiftly now to name a high-quality, permanent leader who is ready to step right in and continue the vision for our future EBR students. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Good evening to President Godin, Vice President Howard, the rest of the board. To echo the sentiments that, let me pause and say I'm Devin Wright. I represent the South Louisiana Coalition for Education. We've stood multiple times before the board in the midst of the search process. Beyond that, I'm also a 2006 graduate from Baton Rouge Magnet High School. I'm a resident still of East Baton Rouge Parish, 2418 Tennessee Street, where Ms. Ware Jackson and also Mr. Godin represent portions of that district, and as a 10-year educator. I want to be very clear that everyone should be able to agree that we need a full-time, talented, equity-minded district leader to help us through what we all recognize will be what is one of the most challenging school years in a generation. What I want to make sure, though, that we're clear about is that regardless of personal feelings about the last search, it is certain that we cannot wait to allow this process to be linger any longer. Our students deserve and certainly have been demanding more. And I think you all understand that. I think you feel that sense of urgency. But I do want to remind you that if we were to take this in an extended form to begin all the way over, it's been since December of 2018 that Warren Drake told us that he would be leaving. We must be very clear that any extension of time is detrimental to the work that needs to happen. Every educator understands what we call the summer slide, where our kids are losing their potential, their momentum in those 10 weeks between the end of one year, beginning of the next. Our kids were out from the middle of March, and some not returning until fully this coming week. We cannot extend longer, also being mindful that in 2020 there will be election. And so we're not certain that politics will not play a further role in choosing the right leader because the board is thinking about how they shall be reelected. And so that's something that not a lot of people want to talk about, but it's very clear to so many of us. And I want you all to just really own up to that, making sure that the work is done now and not extended. We don't know what that would look like on the other end of this. And so we believe that you're competent, that you will make the right decision, you'll do what's in the best interest of our children, but we want to constantly admonish you to do that because the public is watching. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Good evening, Mr. Howard, school board members. My name is Dr. Tony Jones. I represent a group of 207 faith leaders. The group is called United Faith Leaders, pastors, CEOs, business owners, and concerned parents in the community. 3 years ago, this month, I was asked to advocate for quality education in the state of Louisiana with a focus right here in EBR. When I accepted that position, I was told that I would be attending the school board meetings that will be led by leaders who hold the future of our children in their hands. I emphasize leaders because the word leadership literally means that the leader is concerned about those on his ship. There are three observations that I made in the 3 years that I've been attending these meetings. One, there's a great deal of time spent celebrating the healthy part of the school system, and very little time is spent at the very end on addressing the unhealthy parts of the school system. Number two, under the disguise of fighting for our children, you spend 80% of your time fighting one another. Either you're fighting each other or you're fighting for one another based on a political or personal aspiration. By definition, if you were fighting for our children, by definition, if you were fighting for our children, you would be fighting together and not one another. Just an observation. I have learned that what we say at this mic, it appears to be very little on your radar because it seems that your mind's already made up. But what I'm asking is that you give our children an upgrade. Everyone knows what upgrade is. Our phones we upgrade, our computers we upgrade. An upgrade protects us from viruses of an old operating system. It doesn't make any sense to get a 2021 iPhone using an operating system from 2010. That's a failure waiting to happen. Many of your colleagues have already spoken about things that we've already put in motion. An upgrade. An upgrade not only protects you from viruses, an upgrade provides a better future for the device, in our case, for our children. So I'm simply here to ask that you stop fighting one another and start fighting for our children. Give us an upgrade. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Good afternoon. I'm Angela Reams Brown, President of East Baton Rouge Federation of Teachers and Support Workers. And while I'll talk to you tonight, I want some of you who can think further back than others to think about all of the genius people who have worked for the East Baton Rouge Parish school system and that have left and gone to other school districts and used what they learned here to better other school districts. As a board, you've been issued the task of making a decision about who will represent this district as our next superintendent in an interim or permanent position. Unfortunately, we just spent thousands of dollars on a search that led us to someone who, for whatever the reason, was unable to fulfill her duties. Now, less than 3 months later, we're looking again for someone to lead this district. This time, in my opinion, we can't afford to spend one dime, seeing that we lost $9 million in property tax money, and God knows how much money we're going to lose in the sales tax collection. So I'm here to ask that you stop looking for what is right before your face. We already have someone who has the necessary education, a Bachelor of Arts degree in elementary ed, a master's in administration and supervision, someone who is already certified as school superintendent, and much more. Currently, this individual has administrative experience because he's the associate superintendent of academic programs and many other qualities, just to name a few. But for me, when you look at the qualifications for a person who you want to serve as your superintendent, the number one thing that stands out for me is loyalty. To this district, always putting children first, always willing to step up and help without the recognition, being positive and helpful when asked for help, a great listener, making sure that the district is viewed in a positive light, not just by its employees, but by the community. For me, what more could you want in a candidate? For me, I feel we should stop looking and select our very own homegrown candidate. For me, that is Adam Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Thank you, board members. My name is Matt Diaz. I'm a parent of 4 kids, 2 in the EBR school system. Over the next few months, it'll be all 4 of them. I happened to attend EBR schools in the term of all the 80s. And at that time, I had the pleasure of attending 4 different elementary schools. One of the things I've tried to do as much as possible is advocate for stability for my kids so they don't have to do with what I had to go through. I'd like to remind the board that in 2012, we conducted a national search for a hotshot superintendent. Somebody favored by the business community, somebody favored by the reform crowd, and we were assured we had that guy. And we ended up with a gentleman who ended up closing a number of school programs, opening up a whole bunch of other new ones, played musical chairs with various principalships, ended up with a hostile relationship with the board, ended up with a hostile relationship with parents, ended up with a hostile relationship with various school and community groups. He threatened violence, for various, to various board members and speakers at these meetings. He was eventually charged with assault, not here, and he was also subject to a $250,000 lawsuit. Now, I'm not saying that your superintendent pick, your hotshot from out of town will be that. I tell you who it won't be. I have absolute confidence that Mr. Adam Smith will never bring that kind of infamy upon this body. He was a classroom teacher, an AP, a principal, a director. He's got plenty of experience in this school system. He's calm, he's humble. I've worked with him a number of times for my kids' school issues, and he's always been eager to understand. With that said, I've always felt very strongly about Mr. Smith as a candidate, and looking forward, it looks like we've got, for better or worse, a set of long emergencies looming. We've got pending budget crises, we've got the long emergency of the coronavirus, we've got the pending St. George fight, which doesn't appear to be wrapping up anytime soon, and we've got a dramatic increase in higher risk populations here in EBR. So I say again, now is not the time to do a national search or to go recruit a hotshot out of towner. What we need right now is stability, and our kids and our community need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hi everyone, my name is Harman. I'm one of the co-founders and co-directors of Step Up Louisiana. We're a grassroots community organization here in Baton Rouge, representing parents. We have a parent union, and I'm speaking on their behalf. I'm up here to really just speak on concern about the overall search to begin with. We filed an ethics complaint with the NAACP and Teachers Union, the EBRPSS Association of Educators. We also filed a lawsuit on the findings of compromised methods of conversation between school board members and people of the business community. We found that to be a corrupt way of hijacking the search, in a sense, with the business community. And for some reason, y'all have not been served yet. Judge Clark in the 19th JDC has filed a hearing on October 19th, so it's public record, y'all can see that. So this search overall should be restarted. But I really found it unfortunate to find where the search ended, because, you know, we did a national search, and what you're bound to find, you know, the Ed Reformer Network is very wide and big across the nation. We had 2 people that went through Chiefs for Change, and another candidate also went to a further extent going through the Broad Academy. This is an engine pipeline for school leaders that want to privatize school districts. Prior to coming to Baton Rouge, I came from New Orleans, where they were in the same position of getting a new leader who wasn't from the area, just to come in and completely privatize the school district, where Orleans Parish School Board does not even administer school transportation anymore. Contracts, contracts, contracts. Our children are not for sale, period. So please, let's go for a leader that's from here, that's not going to sell our children out. Every time we deal with an issue, we're calling Adam and he's handling it. Every time. Every time. We got children that are being mistreated in this school district, and we call him and he always comes through for us. I have seen parents get disrespected in an IEP meeting. And Adam knows it, but he holds it down for himself because he knows where he plays in his school district. Because Patrice Hudson and Elizabeth Chapman do not deserve to lead the SPED department in this school district. So this is a hot mess in this school district, so I think we need to look within to really find the leadership that can really take us where we need to go. Because anybody outside don't know what they're walking into. And it's a lot of missteps that can happen. And our children don't have time for it. Our parents don't have time for it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next. Does someone have a phone that they need to silence, please?
Hi, I am Anita Augustus. I am president of the East Parish Association of Educators, and I speak before you again as I represent approximately 1,200 members. As you know, this has been a trying time for us. From March until now, we've had challenges upon challenges with school safety, with sanitation, with cleanliness. And what I'm going to say is that every time I've had a concern, I have been able to call Mr. Smith. Every single time, he has heard the voices of educators and parents alike. He has been faithful to this district. And I would like to say that if I've been faithful to an organization, that organization will be faithful to me. He has been here. He's continued to be here. I know parents who have said that they've had challenges and they've been able to contact him. He's been a voice in the wilderness. He's been a voice in the valley. He's been a voice on the mountaintop. And this district deserves to put our children first. We deserve to have someone who's already been in the trenches, who's already working on behalf of this district, who's already working on behalf of our children, and already working on behalf of this city. And we deserve that. We deserve someone that is going to be on the forefront. We deserve it not only as educators, not only as people who in the district, and people who are looking to move into the district. We deserve a leader who is going to stand up for what is right, who is going to not only take the brunt and the bullets that are being handed his way, but stand up with dignity. We don't have to worry about scandals going on. We can be steadfast and know that Mr. Smith has been faithful. You've already made up your minds what you're going to do. But I'm telling you now that I speak for educators, parents, and students. Parents who have called me and said, thank you for standing up for our children. I do the hard things. I say the hard things because it's important to speak for children that cannot speak for themselves. We may not always agree, and I have agreed with you on some things, and I will continue to agree on what's right. But we have an opportunity to continue to move this district forward. And we have someone who has been faithful and who will continue to be faithful, who has the knowledge to bring our district forward.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Hello again, it's James Finney again. As with many of my colleagues in the audience, I would support Mr. Smith being the permanent superintendent of this system. However, I'm not sure you can legally do that at this point. Whether Ms. Brown was superintendent for 2 months or 2 decades, she was the elected superintendent. We could question whether the process that led to her selection and election and signing of a contract was done properly or not. But the fact is, you have a vacancy, and what you have on the table to consider is not a search, but a fake search. That is just an abhorrent concept. To say you're going to have a search and you've already identified the winner of that search guarantees people won't waste their time. So if you are going to have a search, have a search. Find a qualified search firm. Consider the $25,000 you already spent, money wasted. Find somebody that can actually recruit qualified candidates. And make it very clear whether you're willing to consider unqualified folks to manage the business side, as would be the case with Dr. Towns if you selected her. Because if you do that, if I had known that was the idea, I would have again applied like I did when you hired Mr. Drake and Dr. Taylor. So, if you're going to conduct a search, conduct a search. If you think you can legally appoint one of the last finalists, appoint Mr. Smith. Dr. Towns cannot legally be the superintendent of the Louisiana school system because she doesn't have teaching credentials. You would immediately have to start a search for a deputy superintendent or associate superintendent or chief academic officer, I don't know the term, and so you're just right back with the search that people don't want. So if you can appoint Mr. Smith as the permanent superintendent, by all means, that's the appropriate thing. You should have selected him several months ago, but you didn't. So you have a vacancy. So please quit breaking the law. If you're going to have a search, have a legitimate search and accept my application. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Good evening, my name is Belinda Davis, and I am the mother and or guardian of 3 children in the East Baton Rouge Parish Public School System and the mother of one of your recent graduates. And as the president of one community, one school district over the past decade, I've had the opportunity to get to know Mr. Smith. And that has primarily come because when parents have encountered difficulties navigating our school system, they have come to me asking me for advice to how to get their issues resolved. And without fail, Mr. Smith has been my go-to man. I have been able to go to him for competent, steady leadership and advice for parents about how to navigate inside our public school system. I have advocated with him at the legislature for our district. I have grown to appreciate so much his steady, calm demeanor and his leadership. He is very, very prone to celebrate the people around him and the people that work under him without tooting his own horn, which is why so many people don't appreciate all of the hard work and all of the things that he does for our district. And speaking as a member of the Louisiana Board of Elementary and Secondary Education who just navigated a search for our own state superintendent, I know that this is a difficult task, and one of the things that was paramount in my consideration of who was going to lead our state when it came to education was making sure that we had someone who understood our state, who understood the problems that our state was facing, and was going to be able to hit the ground running. And so as a parent, that's what I want in my own district. I want you to choose someone who knows our district in and out, who knows our strengths, who knows our weaknesses, and is equipped to come in and help right our ship. And I think that you have that in Adam Smith. He is, in my opinion, greatly underappreciated, and you should look seriously at him and all of the wonderful qualities that he could bring to this job. And I will also say that one of the things that I said as a member of Bessie was that I was unwilling to vote for a state superintendent that required a waiver. And so you need to think carefully about what you're asking of the state and your parents to accept a superintendent who is not qualified under Louisiana law to lead your district without a waiver. And I think that that's really important, and I hope you'll think carefully about what you're doing with this motion to limit this search to one candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Good afternoon. First, my time is supposed to be 5 minutes and you have it at 3. No, I speak for an agency. So, I would like to first start off by saying I greatly appreciate that Mr. Adam Smith is sitting where he's supposed to be seated every day. And that's right there where the superintendent is supposed to sit. See, for some reason or another, you wanted my child to be silenced when he came in here with his game. But you forgot that he is an ESS student. And under IDEA, each and every last one of you can be sued and will be sued. See, Mr. Smith has been the only reason that each and every last one of you have not been on my hit list. When I say my hit list, I mean going before Louisiana 19th JDC. See, each and every last one of you forgot that we're supposed to be one team, one mission. And that one team, one mission is supposed to educate every single child, irregardless of their race or their disability. And for some reason, unfortunately, Mr. Mike Gaudet, as the president of our school board, you should actually be leading. Why aren't you leading to make sure that my child have a voice? See, we just renamed Lee High School Liberty, meaning that liberty
and justice for all means every single person in here, every child that is represented in this school district. And for some reason or another, my child and the other 4,000 plus children that is in this ESS department seem to be forgotten. So when I asked Mr. Howard, why are you asking for Miss Towns, Miss Nakia Towns, that is not even her real name, it's Tiffany. When you ask for her to be the only person, but she's not even here. She's not here to represent me. Do she know this school district? Does she know any child out of the 43,000 plus that we have? Do she know Mr. Shamlin personally? Do she know any of us personally? Does she have to learn this city? That's where we have a problem. But we have a person that is loyal, that is dedicated, that has had his children educated by the school system that we claim we love and that we trust, and yet we don't want to keep him in that seat. That's called a problem. So I ask each and every last one of you to think about how IDEA says that you are liable for my child, for his individualized education plan, and part of his individualized education plan says that he's supposed to have a seat at the table and be represented. Every Student Succeed Act says his parent is supposed to have a seat at the table and be represented. Do I need to name any of the federal laws that Mr. Shamlin himself can tell you that I can quote? You have to allow our children to be represented. And the only person that has ever applied for this superintendent position that can represent my child and keep me from off of you is Mr. Adam Smith. So I think that you should take that not lightly. Thank you, and you have a great night. And I did drive all the way from the doctor's appointment to make sure I talked directly to you so that you did not mess up my name pronunciation. It is Ferronda Courtney, and a proud parent of a child in the ESS department that Mr. Smith makes sure can actually go back into the brick and mortar building during this pandemic and safely get an education. So when we ask for leadership, it's only one person that has provided that. And I think you should look at him, and you should not only let him take a bow, but you should always allow him to have that seat.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Seeing none at this time, I will go to the internet and read the comments that are there. The first one, it's out of place, but I will read it anyway. It's from Paige Caldwell. I agree with the woman who stood up and spoke. We do not have time for experimenting our learning curve. We need someone who is not a stranger to our district. I believe Adam Smith has the interests of our community and students at heart. I strongly encourage that the board considers the 4 candidates, not just one. From Storm Matthews. The resolution states to invite the top 4 candidates from the previous EBR Public Schools Superintendent search process to be reconsidered for the role, who are as follows: Adam Smith, Quintina Tamal, T. Nakia Towns, and Marshall Tuck. However, Marshall Tuck was not one of the 4 finalists and therefore should not be included in this resolution. From Jasmine Pogue, I read it once, but I'm going to read it again just to make sure we're clear. Just a comment to share my warm wishes for the good health of Mrs. Brown. I appreciate her always being open to having a discussion with me and my organization, and her enthusiasm in becoming EBR school superintendent. Please share with her my regards. From Jennifer Harding. As this body goes through the steps of selecting a permanent replacement for superintendent, I ask that the members commit to ensuring that the process is more transparent than the original search was. I have heard troubling chatter that some members don't think it is necessary to allow the public to express themselves via public comment when it's time for the decision to be made. I realize that the last meeting was long, and a little heated, but I think that we are all better served when the public participation is not stifled. From Nita Reels, are we going to pay a consultant firm again? And again, this is from Nita Wills. As Dr. Town said, she would come back to the district. Will Thomas, what is the legality of school board members openly campaigning for superintendent candidates? That said, let's get someone who knows the district and someone who is familiar with the job, someone who is trusted with half the job already. Let's get Adam Smith. Justin Brown. We should bring Nakia Towns in as the school year is going very fast. She shall be brought in. Leslie Child. Dawn, you did not vote for us, you voted for yourself. We wanted Dr. Towns and would have never chosen Brown. Both favored charters, so stop using that excuse. Please actually vote for us. We elected you, not the people paying you. Jody Herrera. The board needs to keep in mind that the next leader needs to win over the central office and all the teachers and staff. Just picking someone y'all think is good means nothing. Central office will not just fall in line because you say so. We all know. Best of luck. Leslie Jones. Dr. Towns is the absolute best choice. We need someone who knows what African American students need and someone who is willing to make tough decisions and put in the work. Dr. Towns is the background, education, business mindset, and moral decency that EBR needs, especially now with such an incompetent executive team, discouraged teachers, and struggling students. Choose someone who will take action, someone who will clean up this district, and someone who is not afraid to. Thank you, Mr. Howard, for your motion. David Nelson. Seems like we shouldn't spend money and time we don't have. Why not give the job to someone with the years of experience in the district? Why not put Adam Smith in the position he is more than prepared for? From Hannah Birchman. At this point, it makes most sense not to bring an outsider in. Mr. Smith knows our kids, our schools, and our community. He knows the challenges that are unique to our schools. Additionally, he has experience as a K-12 educator, something that should be a priority when looking for a superintendent, interim or not. Theodore Smith. There's no need to hire a firm to start a new search. There are plenty of qualified candidates that were vetted as part of the original process. Starting a new search would be wasteful use of taxpayer dollars and portray a lack of courage by the board to make a competent decision. Do the right thing and simply pick up the phone and contact the leaders that have been previously vetted and are willing to accept this position. Do the right things for EBR students or vacate your board seat. Jennifer Hardy. Since things change unexpectedly after I submitted my initial comment, I am submitting an additional comment. COVID-19 pandemic has made an already challenging year of leadership transition more difficult. What parents and teachers and school staff need more than anything right now is a sense of stability and continuity. Associate Superintendent Adam Smith has a proven track record and the leadership skill set that inspires trust. He would be ready to jump into the role of superintendent on day one with no learning curve to slow him down. As a parent of an EBR student and as a community advocate, I feel confident that Mr. Smith is the right person to usher through this pandemic and lead our system forward. I urge you to consider that Mr. Smith was only one of the 4 finalists of the JG search that has already proven his dedication to the district and ready to start without disruption. Please appoint Mr. Adam Smith as the permanent superintendent. From Jaden Land, we need a good leader and we need a good one now. We need to bring in Ms. Nakia Towns as she was a great choice for our district. I agree with Mr. Lannis and Howard that we need to act quickly as the school year is moving fast. As a 12th grader at D. McKinley High, we trust you all and we trust you will listen to our explanations. Like Mr. Lannis said, it will take up to 7 months for y'all to bring in a new superintendent, so why not bring in Mrs. Towns? She will be a great leader in our district. Stop bringing in politics and think about us students and teachers. Thanks and good night. From Niall Patel. Last month has been extremely difficult for me. I have purposely focused on my family due to these hard times. However, after learning the news of Dr. Brown's illness, I was deeply saddened again. I am nothing without my education, and I owe everything to my teachers, which is why I wholeheartedly advocate for a great education for every child, something my father and grandfather bestowed upon me. So in their memory, I'm speaking up to plead with our school board to work quickly to name a true and experienced leader, not for any other reason, entity, or personal belief except for our students. We have spent countless months and resources this year to find top candidates to lead our system. With these unfortunate circumstances and unique time, I urge that we do not spend any more time without a bold and innovative superintendent in EBR. I sincerely ask board members to invite finalists that were chosen less than a month ago to be reconsidered and permanently fill the role ASAP. From Jasmine Pogue, I was going to reserve comment on choosing a superintendent, but that has changed now due to the friendly amendment. I support Mr. Smith as our next superintendent, as he has been a wonderful addition to our stressful school system. Please remember to show students that loyalty, hard work, and kind spirit can win out in the end. I am willing to work with any superintendent joyfully. I would be pleased to work alongside Mr. Smith to better our schools. This is from Charles Hines. All of these people are asking for Adam Smith when Adam has been part of a failing leadership team in EBR schools. Think about it. What has he done that has been impactful for our schools? Ask the teachers, principals, and district team. The reason he is not being pushed by those who have worked with him. We need new leadership, and Adam is not an option. The system is broken, and he is a part of that system. From Camille Conaway. Given the difficulties of this year, it is critically important for the school board to immediately hire another superintendent. A second search just for a few months after a lengthy search is simply unnecessary and a serious disservice to students, teachers, employers, and taxpayers of the school district. Top candidates should remain the top candidates. Dr. Towns in particular was nearly hired a few months ago. I urge the school board to extend an offer to Dr. Towns urgently, or at a minimum, re-interview the 4 finalists and make a new selection with all due speed, no later than November. There is absolutely no justification for an interim appointment, a search process, or expending additional funds in an outside firm when vetted candidates are already available. This has been tumultuous at best and chaotic and harmful to our students at worst. We need strong demonstrated district leadership urgently. Please act with this in mind tonight. From Joy Phillips. As a parent, it saddens me to know that our time with Leslie Brown has been cut short. Mrs. Brown was an outstanding leader to be placed as superintendent. It is my hope that this board will act together quickly, transparently, and efficiently to hire a permanent, high-quality, equity, and student-centered leader such as Leslie Brown. From Lewis Davis. With Superintendent Brown resigning, the fight must continue as we look for a leader who will go above expectation to ensure the underserved students and families will be addressed accordingly. We will not take anything less than the talent and experience of someone like Mrs. Leslie Brown. From Joel Troxclair. My heart goes out to Leslie Brown. I really look forward to seeing her demonstrate her leadership. Now we must work quickly and even harder to put a new proven leader in her place who is just as optimistic as she was about the future of East Baton Rouge Parish. From Brenda Christopher. It is important that the board move quickly to fill the seat of superintendent with a high-quality, proven, equity, and student-centered leader. Our district students and employees need leadership now more than ever. From Aline Walker. I feel that it is of utmost importance the board act quickly to replace Mrs. Brown with a proven leader with top talent and experience in turning low-performing schools. We need a leader who has a proven track record of success, and we can't settle for the same old type of leadership that has failed our children. Gail Jones. We need our board leaders to continue to work and put in place a superintendent with the same fight, vigor, and leadership as Mrs. Leslie Brown. I hope that the board can come together quickly and agree on a high-quality replacement. We need leadership. From Lena Edwards. The students of East Baton Rouge deserve effective and efficient leadership now. Please come together and move quickly to appoint the best person for superintendent. Our district needs someone that is talented, experienced, and has a vision that every student deserves a high-quality education and do the hard work to get it done. From Clara Rhodes. Global pandemic, economic recession. These tragedies are fundamentally impacting our community. Yes, but these tragedies are disproportionately wreaking havoc on the families and children you represent. Families of historically marginalized groups. Children born into tough situations make infinitely more difficult by the loss of hospitalization of loved ones. Destruction of community at the hands of disease and income loss. The children and educators in the school district need a permanent leader, and they deserve to have one now. because these crises are happening now. Difficult decisions must be made now. This community is strongest when it unites around a common goal of acting in the best interest of children. Our community is already experiencing upheaval. Why compound it by naming an interim superintendent just to repeat the expensive, time-consuming search process just completed? I implore you to select one of the high-quality finalists from the previous search. From Camilla Geisman, I encourage the board to attempt to expedite the search for a new superintendent by gauging interest with the candidates from the most recent search. It is important to move through this process as expeditiously as possible. I will refresh the list one more time.
Mr. Godin,
Yes.
when you refresh, go back up to the one above. There's 3 after that last one you read, I believe.
Are you talking about Charles Hines?
Yes, there's,
Okay.
the next one is 4.
Okay, got it. Okay, so this is from Charles Hines. All of these people asking for Adam Smith. I think I read that. DeAndre Fuller. As an employee of EBR, I believe Adam Smith is qualified to become the next superintendent of EBR. He is always in schools interacting with students, faculty, and staff. In fact, he was at my school today providing meaningful and actionable feedback. From Anna Marie Blank. Please don't invalidate the selection process by limiting choices. Stop playing politics. Remember that our district has already experienced extreme upheaval caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, which was then exacerbated by changing superintendents as the school year began with an out-of-town candidate who had a lot to learn. Then, just as we were catching our stride with hybrid and virtual, we find ourselves destabilized by Mrs. Brown's resignation. We need stability during this time, and I believe that Adam Smith can provide that stability. He is a familiar presence for our employees, and he has a history of improving schools within our unique district. He has already invested in our community, and his tenure within the EBR system gives him the direct institutional knowledge needed to hit the ground running in this position. Please select Adam Smith as superintendent. From La Portia Ocachino. Dawn Collins, please stop saying you're voting with your gut. You're voting for a political gain. The community is all over it. Adam Smith should have been in the seat from the start. Let's not wait. We need a leader. Please keep politics and race out of the search. That's why we are here again. Are there any other? I will refresh one more time. And I do not see any more comments. Are there any other comments from the audience in person? Seeing none, we will go back to the comment board, and the only person up on the list right now is Mr. Lannis.
I'll reserve my comment for after the vote. I want to say the vote, man, so I'll reserve my comment.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Madam Secretary, would you please, have you figured out if you can put the motion up on the board so we can clearly see the amended motion? Okay. I'm really just interested in what is the exact verbiage of the friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment to consider the approval of a resolution to advertise for and select a superintendent and consider the sole finalist, Dr. T. Nakia Towns, for the position of superintendent.
Okay, thank you. So that is the motion that we are getting ready to vote on. And it has been requested for a roll call vote. Any other comments before we commence with the vote? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct the vote?
District 1, Mr. Blue.
No.
District 2, Mr. Lannis.
Yay.
District 3, Vice President Howard.
Yes.
District 4, Ms. Collins.
Yay.
District 5, Ms. Ware Jackson.
Yes.
District 6, Ms. Dyson. No.
District 7, President Godin.
No.
District 8, Ms. Bernard.
No.
District 9, Mr. Tappan.
No.
The motion fails.
The motion fails. So now we will move to the next item on the agenda. Item, let's see, where are we? Item 4, I-4. Consideration of request for the authorization to advertise for the position of superintendent. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Tapman. Do I have a second?
Wait.
By Mr. Blue.
Hold on 1 second.
Before moving forward, that was a friendly amendment, so I'm gonna actually suggest, I think we go back to the original motion on the floor. Is that
It was a friendly amendment accepted.
Yeah, point of order. If it was a substitute motion, yes, but it's a friendly amendment. No, you amended the original motion. That's just board members' opinion.
Per Robert's rules.
My opinion is
Yes.
per Robert's rules.
It was accepted by both the maker of the motion and the seconder of the motion, so it became a friendly amendment, so it became the amendment. It became the resolution, I'm sorry.
Right, so Mr. Landis asked for some clarification, so to explain, had there been a substitute motion and substitute motion failed, we would have returned to the original motion. Because it was a friendly amendment and accepted by the original maker, the entire motion fails.
Would you like to challenge that, Mr. Lannis, or? Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to authorize the advertisement of the position of superintendent made by Mr. Tapman and Mr. Ballou. Are there any comments from the board on the motion to advertise, which, Mr. Shamlin, if I am correct, that is a legal requirement to open this position of superintendent?
That is correct. We have a resignation of the original selection. We're now in a position where the board would need to appoint a permanent superintendent, and the statute clearly requires there be advertising, specifically twice in the official journal, 1 week apart. And so if the board authorizes that tonight, we'll begin that process tomorrow.
And so to be clear for everyone listening and everyone in the audience, the law clearly states that we have to advertise twice, at least 1 week apart in the official document, and then wait 30 days after the last advertising in order to be able to take action on permanently selecting the superintendent.
That is correct.
Okay. Just to be clear. Any comments from the board? I see no one on the list. Is there anyone, Ms. Dyson, who requests to speak?
I just have a question for legal counsel. So we have the advertisement already written, and so is there anything that will hamper our ability to get that process started tomorrow and be in Monday's, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday's paper?
Yeah. Generally, based on experience, and I can let staff who handle the advertisement speak specifically to that, but generally it takes 2 days from the time of our request for something to actually appear in the paper. It's our hope that we can expedite the process, that Monday would be the soonest, but we can't promise that. And so
Okay.
I would say
And
Tuesday at the
would be
latest.
the latest.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Seeing no other comments from the board, we will take comments from the audience related to the advertising requirement.
Thank you. I would hope that as you're advertising for the position, the advertisement is very clear as to whether you are seeking someone who is qualified to be superintendent of a school district in Louisiana without a waiver being required, or if you're willing to consider candidates who are well qualified otherwise but lack that important credential, because that greatly affects who you can select at the end of the process without a legal challenge, and it also greatly affects the candidates that are likely to respond to that advertisement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hello, Mr. Goday. I'm assassinating your name like you do mine. I'm sorry.
I have a hard time with it. I'm
I-
sorry. I apologize.
Well, I'm
It's
gonna
not
reclaim.
personal.
I know. I'm gonna reclaim my time though, since you started talking. I would really like for us to have a real true clarification on the actual contract that we did with JG Consultants. Because if my memory serves me correct, JG Consultants were chosen because if our superintendent did not say for any reason whatsoever that they would actually do the search again for free. So we should not actually have to pay it all. And asking our attorney to see how that when that advertisement would be submitted, that's actually JG Consultants' responsibility. So I just ask that we actually revisit that contract. Also, and when we revisit that contract, we also need to revisit how we actually changed the qualifications for our superintendent on the very night that it was voted for the candidate. We changed that so that we can make it so that one person, Tiffany Nakia Towns Edwards, could be chosen to be the candidate, and she was not, because she did not meet the qualifications, whether we changed it or not. So if we're going to continue to violate the law, then we need to violate the law for what is right for our children, and unfortunately, that has not been the case. So I'm asking that we actually ask our legal consultant, Mr. Shamlin, if he could actually clarify for me right now while I'm still standing here, and I'm going to reclaim my time and ask that you pause it, so that he can actually speak on that matter, which is, is JG Consultant responsible for the advertising and for the interviewing process again for our candidates, for our superintendent candidate search? And I would like to yield to him, but I am stopping my time.
We do not let
Well, okay. Well, if he's not going to be able to answer it, then I do ask that you actually post that for everyone and their mother to be able to see. I want Stevie Wonder to be able to see that. I want Helen Keller to be able to read it. And I want Ray Charles to read it from his gravesite, so that we can actually see that what we're supposed to have is JG Consultants do their job. And so it is not EBR school system's responsibility. But we are supposed to be here to vote for an interim. And again, like I told you before, I want my interim to be Mr. Adam Smith, because Mr. Adam Smith has spoken for all children. Not just one, not just some. And speaking, considering that South Downs Pre-K and Kindergarten, which is 95% children with disabilities in your school district, Mr. Mike Goday, I would think that you would want the brother to your left to be our integral. So I'm just asking for what any person would ask for. And again, when I said that y'all were on my hit list, that is my IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Hit list. I don't want nobody to think that I'm trying to assassinate you, but that I just only want y'all to know that I will assassinate you in the court of law. That's all. So thank you so much.
The question of the JG Consulting contract will be addressed in the next item. Are there any other? Yes, ma'am.
I simply write Dr. Jacqueline Mims to ask that you consider a different consulting firm if you really need to go with a consulting firm. I really do think that with time of the essence, this is probably something that you could do by establishing a committee of the board inclusive of members of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I have lost my comments. Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other comments from the audience? Give me just 1 second, please. And I will read the comments off the internet. So we have one comment from Crystalline Lyles. Please consider extending an invitation to Dr. Nakia Towns concerning assumption of leadership as East Baton Rouge Superintendent. Our communities are in desperate need of a permanent leadership comprised of the determination and focus that Dr. Nakia Towns possesses. Please strongly consider avoiding the lengthy process of reliving the superintendent process, as there are actions better deserving of leadership attention. I am asking the board to make this consideration based on the needs of the constituents, depending on successful delivery of quality education to children in our public schools. Thank you. And from Jasmine Poe, can someone answer if we are starting over completely? That'll be addressed in the next item. So with that, back to the, I have to pull up my list here again, I'm sorry. I'm being computer challenged. Mr. Lannis.
My question is for our board attorney. Given the pending lawsuit, is it possible for JG at this point to move forward in conducting any type of search for us? Because that lawsuit is still pending at this time.
And I assume you're referring to the open meetings suit, or to what lawsuit are you referring to?
This is the lawsuit that they would step up and NAACP filed against school system involved in the transparency of the last search.
In my opinion, there's nothing that stops us from moving ahead with the necessary search. Litigation does not impede that.
Thank you. Mr. Shamlin, you were next on the request to speak.
I'm clear.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the board? And Madam Secretary, did I catch all of the comments on the internet? I think I have. Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct the vote?
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we move to item I-5, consideration of request. Someone's comment did not get read. I don't mind reading it. I'm just trying to find it. Ashley? I'm trying to bend over backwards to make sure we catch everyone. Ashley Scott? Ashley Suit? Ashley Roderick? Ashley Hire. I-6. Ashley Casey. Ashley. Okay, Ashley Casey, is that who you were there? Yeah, that's under item I-6. Okay? Okay, thank you. So, item 5 is consideration request to authorize JG Consulting to conduct a search for superintendent. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Ballou, seconded by Mr. Tapman. And I will, we do have Mr. Guerra available by virtual connection. Ms. Jones, is that able to pull that up? He did not call in, okay. In that case, there have been many questions about this, so I was going to read in some information from him as soon as I can get to my email. Mr. Shamlin, do you have his letter describing his services handy? Give me that in just a second. I got it. I have it. Okay, so I will read this letter from JG Consulting. On behalf of JG Consulting, I would like to express my sincere sympathy for the Brown family. Our thoughts and prayers are lifted for the Brown family and those impacted by a recent hospitalization. A legacy serving as superintendent of East Baton Rouge Parish School System left a significant imprint across the district and community in a short period of time. JG Consulting welcomes the opportunity to carry on Superintendent Brown's legacy by conducting a formal executive search to recruit a successor to serve as superintendent. Our service to the East Baton Rouge Parish School System will be at no cost to the district and taxpayers of the community. We submit 2 scenarios for the school board's consideration. A 3-month executive search. Advertise the pre-existing job profile developed by board and community during October and November. Recruit, screen, and vet applicants, including a new set of on-demand interview questions, October and November. Schedule applicant interviews on behalf of the board and community late November, early December. Name a lone finalist by December 31st, 2020. The alternative would be a 5-month search, and it's basically the same thing, but the interviews and community input would be in mid to late January, and name a lone finalist by November 21st. JG Consulting will serve as a dedicated partner to the school board and work diligently to recruit the next superintendent without compromising the quality of service, regardless of the options selected from the 2 suggested scenarios. The global pandemic nor the time frame will impede our collective efforts to recruit qualified candidates to serve as the superintendent. So I think that answered some of the questions that came up from the audience.
Excuse me, please.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, excuse me. I understand that Mr. Guerra and one of his teammates have been on teams the whole time. Maybe there's something else they need to do, but they've been on throughout the meeting on teams.
They're as attendees and not presenters.
So
They're watching and not participating.
Oh,
They have an email invite that they can join, but they must join as a presenter and not an attendee.
Okay, so to repeat some of what was just said as a reply is that if you're listening, you need to go on as a presenter and not just an attendee, and that is why you are not able to speak right now, Mr. Guerra. So has that been corrected?
Call Mrs. Jones.
You can also call in with the number that is in his email.
The number that's in your email, you can also call in.
You can call in with the number from your email. Thank you.
While we were waiting on that, why don't we begin the public comment period, or should we wait? Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Tappan.
I guess I want a little clarity because I'm looking at the backup, I guess. So he's offering 2 options on time frame. Are we voting on that time frame tonight?
We can amend the resolution to say we want the 3-month time frame or we want the 5-month time frame. That's perfectly okay.
The which month? Say that again.
There's a 3-month time frame. Number 1 is a 3-month time frame to name the finalists by December 31st.
Okay.
And there's a 5-month to name a finalist by early February.
So I guess my question is, if we don't clarify that in the motion, who makes that decision?
I agree. So would you like to clarify that in the motion? You are the second, and so if you'd like to make...
Well, who made it? Who made the motion? Oh, how do you feel about that, Mr. Booth?
I'd like to see it, if he thinks he can make a reasonable search and it won't impede the ability to find the best candidates, I think the sooner the better. So I don't know that we have to choose one of the options, but we probably, we've got to have some sort of timeline. So I think I would go with option A, and certainly knowing the holidays are coming up, if somehow that causes a problem, we can amend it later. But I would propose that we select the first option, which was choosing a superintendent by December 31st.
So you want to amend your motion?
Yes, I'm going to.
Yeah.
So the amendment would be to, I forgot what the exact amendment was, but to accept the presentation.
The option A presented in the letter.
I would say to fulfill option A to the best of everyone's ability.
Yeah.
Is that okay language? Okay.
Can we hear that again?
We'll let him read it.
The current motion reads, consideration of a request to authorize JG Consulting to conduct the search for superintendent. No, that's the item. The motion, where's that type of motion? Okay, so there will be a motion to authorize JG Consulting to conduct a search for superintendent within 3 months.
So I might kind of, because it was my question, I might still have the floor, kind of, I'm going to try to reach out for it. And I just, having a conversation with Mark, we could have a sidebar with him. I would prefer a deliberate search as opposed to just stretching it out. And so I worry a little bit about saying 3 months, but that's...
As soon as practical.
Yeah, as soon as practical is what I think we're really looking for.
So
how do we do that?
Yeah, and some additional information for the board. Looking at the agenda items, there is a consideration to appointing an interim if that happens. The law does allow an interim appointment of up to 6 months before permanent appointment of the superintendent has to be made. That's only a consideration I'm giving you as you talk through the motion.
So the amended motion would be as soon as practical?
Just as simple as that is what you're considering. That's fine with me.
Okay, as soon as practical. Can he speak?
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Guerrero.
He needs to unmute.
You need to unmute, sir. Hello, sir? I feel like I'm talking to the International Space Station. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Collins.
Okay, as a point of clarity for myself, does that mean that is the nature of this motion that there will be a definite decision by 3 months?
Yes, Ms. Collins has the floor right now, Mr. Guerrero. Just a moment.
My concern,
as soon as practical is the current wording.
So for the search to continue, but does that dictate that by December 31st or whatever that 3-month date would be, that a decision must be made on a different person? Okay, it's just let's see who's out there, have the input.
If it's mid-January, that's as soon as practical. It's mid-January.
Okay.
We're saying we're putting an emphasis on doing it expeditiously.
Okay. As I have expressed, I have concern around rushing through it and coming with a whole nother change, considering all of everything the district has been through, from pandemic to the way learning has been impacted, etc., and then a leadership change real quick is concerning to me. But if the motion does not dictate that, bam, we switching gears again, then I'm okay with it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Guerrero, are you on the line? Mr. You can speak now, sir.
There's a time delay, so he's listening to Ms. Collins speak.
It is a space station.
I am here, but I don't know that you can hear me.
We can, sir. Wait, it doesn't do any good for me to say that.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
You need to turn the volume up.
Hello. Yeah, the communication is delayed for some reason.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know that you can hear me. Okay, terrific. So it sounds very distant through the microphone on my laptop. So, and I hear a bad echo. So I don't know if what I'm saying is legible to the audience. Okay. Okay, terrific. So it sounds very distant through the microphone on my laptop. And I hear a bad echo. I don't know if what I'm saying is legible to the audience.
This is not working. I'm sorry. We're going to just have to punt and move forward. We can't hear him. We're being foiled by technology. Is it the will of the board to try to continue to make contact or just go forward? Yes.
I mean, I hate to be old school, but could we just call them on a cell phone and put it at the microphone in real time?
Yes, Ms. Jones? Could we just call on the cell phone and put them? Thank you.
I'm high tech.
How about a tin can and a string?
Okay, terrific. So am I speaking through a tin can? I think I heard Mr. Gode say that we might as well tie a couple of cans to the end of a string. But anyway, it's good to see everybody virtually. I can see you on YouTube. I attempted to join Teams as well as my colleague, Mr. Fraley. But in a quick recap, what was stated in the letter that I submitted to the board for your consideration this evening is indeed true. So if you were to take into account a full lengthy search under our process, the process would generally take 5 months. And so in this case, since we've already conducted the community stakeholder meetings, the staff meetings, the student meetings, we wouldn't have to do that again since we just recently concluded those meetings. So that would leave us with 3 full months to conclude the search. So if it's the will of the board to name a loan finalist prior to the new school year, the new calendar year by December 31st, we can certainly do that without compromising quality of the search. So I think that's all I want to say in terms of option A versus option B. But as always, we represent the will of the board. So if it's the will of the board to extend the executive search beyond January 1st through February, as indicated in option B, we could certainly do that as well.
And Mr. Guerrero, I don't know if you were being able to listen, but we have amended the motion to say we will conduct the search as expeditiously as possible. I think it's the words we use. And so we're not putting a time frame on it, but we're definitely moving toward the option 1 as quickly as we can without locking in the date.
Okay, I was only able to catch part of that. I'm sorry, I hate to have you repeat yourself.
We have amended, why don't you just tell me? We have amended the motion.
So we have amended the motion to say a friendly amendment to authorize JD Consulting to conduct the search for the superintendent as soon as practical.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
So we can be nimble and agile in this. So as soon as practical, I think can be interpreted in a number of ways. So if it needs to be a later date, by all means we can do that. If it's sooner rather than later, then we'll align our timetable to the will of the board.
Thank you, sir. I've lost the thread of the thing. I do not see any comments. Mr. Landis, you've already commented?
No, that was...
You're up next?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Landis.
I just want to say for the record, I think the consensus of everybody that came to the mic tonight was that the transparency of the last search was not done in full, and it was not done in a way where the community felt like their voices were fully heard. So I do not think that we should rush a search if we're going to go through with it, especially with the language for the next item, reading that we give the next the interim superintendent 6 months. I think that we need to go ahead and let the full process take place so everybody has a voice and a seat at the table to talk about how they feel about our next superintendent and who that person should be. By cutting their voices out, I can promise you, we're setting ourselves up for failure, and they will make sure that their voices are heard during that entire process. I just also want to say for the record that, again, next month we have a week off. In December, we have 2 weeks off. That's almost a month that we're going to lose in that process. So again, we need to go with the full thing rather than trying to cut it short.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other comments from the board? I do not see anyone on the schedule. Sorry. Sir? Mr. Tatman.
I don't want anything to be misconstrued about the motion, and it's on the second on it, but I'm not suggesting, and I agree with my colleague, Mr. Landis, I don't want to rush it, but I just don't want to delay it. I want to make sure we get the input that we need. I want to make sure that we get the review that we need. With the very thing that Mr. Landis talked about with the holidays, I think it's going to create great challenges for us anyway, between Thanksgiving, between Christmas, and then really, frankly, everything shuts down. So I am by no means suggesting by my motion, and I don't think Mr. Ballou is either, that we rush the project. We just want to make sure that we are deliberate about it. That's it.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Seeing none, we'll go to the audience. Comments from the audience?
Hi everyone, Sierra Hart, a Great Louisiana history teacher and director of organizing and strategy for the South Louisiana Coalition for Education, also known as SLICE. I'd like to echo Mr. Landis' comments concerning the time frame, specifically mirroring what Mr. Guerrero said concerning the search, that they would utilize the same community input as before, so the whole entire process wouldn't have to be repeated. Let's put a point of clarification for that. We can't utilize the same survey data or community input from months ago. There are so many things that have changed in that time period, whether it's COVID, race relations, amongst all the other issues that the board has consistently dealt with, as well as the fact that students will just be returning to school next week, combined with Thanksgiving break, winter break, really getting community input. It is vital that this process is done right, and it would be a disservice to students. If you are not going to consider the pool of applicants that was already in place and you're going to redo the process, then redo it in a way where the community can actually be involved, especially knowing that we are still dealing with becoming acclimated to being in a pandemic, as well as trying to get as much community input as possible. It is vital for the success not only of whoever comes into this position, but for the success of this board, that community input is your #1 priority, because that is how you truly understand what our students need, and rushing this process for whatever gain is not going to be the result that we need, especially when you have community members who have made it clear that we have a vested interest in understanding who our next leadership will be, as well as how we can inform that process. So please, let's make a clarification point on how community input will be received, and that communication needs to be transparent in ways that it was not before. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Tanya Nyman again. I'm a little confused because I thought the first resolution to conduct a search failed, and so I don't understand then why you would be hiring a firm or re-engaging with the firm to then conduct a search. I would think you would just be advertising, and that would be the grounds of it. But regardless of that, I would say that I am skeptical of relying on a search firm. I think it actually diminishes the sort of will of the people. You guys are the elected constituents, the elected representatives, and it is your judgment they want to refer to. And with the last search, we could see the way in which the process appeared to be, for lack of a better word, gamed to end up with two candidates that were maybe two sides of the same coin, and not really representative of the will of the people and the immediate stakeholders, parents and teachers. And so, and then on top of that, with JG Consulting, as I mentioned before, the CEO of that firm publicly declares himself an education reformer. He has no education background. He has an MBA. And so I think it taints the process by suggesting that the results of his search firm are going to be privileging that business community's ideas for what's best for our public school system, which is not necessarily in line with parents and teachers. So I hope you will not accept JG's proposal, and we can then move on to the question we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, I'm still James Finney. This process has been tainted from the moment the RFP went out through the purchasing department. If you want to conduct a search, find a qualified search firm. As nice as it is for polite Louisiana folks to be gentle with the incompetent, Mr. Greer demonstrated this evening that he's not qualified to find the chief executive of $500 million a year firm for whom 40,000 kids depend on their futures. Appoint an interim superintendent on the next item. Don't waste any more time going down the road with JG. If you want a search firm, find a search firm that's qualified to do this work. If you want to do it in-house, that's fine. But this process has been tainted ever since that RFP only got the 2 unqualified responses. There must be search firms in the world that can find qualified educational leaders. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other? Oh, yes, sir.
Good evening again, I'm Devin Wright. I speak this time just as a personal and private citizen. I'm concerned because there was a resolution before the board that would take us out of all of the back and forth now concerning the timeline, to be able to look at the pool of candidates that were already brought forward, and because of some logistics, that particular motion was not able to be carried forward. But it does bring us exactly to this point that I think those members who brought the resolution forward were trying to get us passed. To say that, as I appreciate, and I can be corrected certainly, but as I appreciate the laws concerning an interim superintendent, we can't appoint an interim superintendent for more than 6 months, from my understanding of it. So as you're going to, even if you go through tonight and appoint an interim superintendent, we're in a tight 6-month timeline. So then to go back and say, well, let's make sure we do a full search and make sure that it is lengthy, or not lengthy, but make sure that it is thorough, if it puts us beyond 6 months, then we've got other issues there, right? We also have a board member who's currently running for Metro Council. I'm concerned that if she wins, what does that look like for the board in a voting process? If it leaves you with 8 members and you're gridlocked, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the constituents of District 4 that may not have representation then in that vote? I think that all of those things must be considered, and maybe you all should go back, I know a lengthy meeting, but maybe go back to consider what it looks like for a pool of applicants that at one point you felt were competent enough to make it from the initial 20 or so that were there and brought down to 4. And I don't know what you would have to do to be able to get back to that point. But when we're talking about this timeline, again, there are so many other mitigating factors that are going to push this further that you'll have to consider then, and crossing bridges when we get there is not fair to educators, to parents, to students, and I don't believe that any of you really want to go through the entire length of that process again. So we just got to deal with that. I just wanted to bring that up. Sometimes we allow common sense to be fleeting for whatever reason.
Thank you. Next.
While I'm not in favor of using JG Consulting, if you're going to do a search, and it would appear that if we're going to do the search, it may take approximately 6 months, then in the position of having to place an interim before, and then having to conduct a search. A search can be adequately done, I would say probably between 4 and 6 months. I would recommend that since you cannot have an interim longer than 6 months, that perhaps the motion should consider not to exceed the 6-month period as an option. Additionally, I think it is clear from the comments that if we're not going to name a superintendent tonight because we cannot, then perhaps we should be moving forward with a search. We have already concluded from the comments that it appears that more folks are in favor of a search opposed to using or selecting from the 4 top candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Great night. For some reason or another, we just don't get my time right. But hopefully we're going to get this superintendent right. I'm coming up here because we have 4 candidates that we had in the top 5. One of them is our number 2 with LDOE, so I'm quite sure she don't want to come back. But you overlooked her. You didn't want her. We had Tiffany Nakia Towns Edwards, who have litigation against her in Chattanooga. I don't think we want her, considering that we would end up suing her too. Me, for example. I don't think we want Mike Paludi because he's been ran out of places that he's been, and he caters to special interests, and he's had litigation too. And Marshall Tuck, the last one who has done a lot of civil rights violations, and was ran out from the last school system that he dealt with as well. He has pending litigation. So I don't think that we have anyone up there that we could actually consider other than Mr. Smith. He's the only one that is free from litigation. Oh, I'm sorry, the rest of y'all not. He is. He's the only one that's free from litigation. And I'm so happy that Mr. before me actually spoke about common sense. If we're going to use common sense, or if we're going to use some psychology, like Maxwell hierarchy of needs, one of the things we need is air and water, but we also need great leadership. And I just don't see us choosing the ones that I just spoke about that have all this pending litigation because they're failed leadership capabilities. But we do have one that is free from all of those blemishes. So why would we keep trying to go afar and a yonder for something that we actually can use common sense? So I'm going to ask this board, out of all of y'all that are sitting up here, how many of y'all actually have a child in this school district? Raise hand. Just me. And grandchild. How many? Mr. Smith's children were educated in this school system. The one that he's up here trying to be the leader for? Why do we keep trying to bash our heads against the wall for something that makes sense? Ms. Dyson deal with mental health. What y'all doing is nothing short of insanity. Y'all need to, we're asking for straitjackets now for our school board members because we're not using common sense. We're not using logistics. We're not using anything that we're supposed to be educating and teaching these children to do. So I'm asking, if we're going to lead by example, then wouldn't the example be to have the one person that is blemish-free, that has continued to lead our school system, even with our superintendent, who, God, Leslie Brown, you're definitely in my prayer, is deteriorating in health, but this sir here is here. He's doing the job, so why should we continue to pull somebody from outside of our state? Because history has showed us that every single time we get someone that is not within our school district, we come right back to this same exact thing, the same exact problem that we have right now. So I'm asking, since we're one school board member short now, can we please go ahead and do what's right for the sake of my child and the more than 4,000 children in our ESS department that need real, true leadership, and the person that's going to make sure that Miss Elizabeth Taylor Chapman and Patrice Hudson never do any more wrong to our children with disabilities? Can we please go ahead and let him stay in that seat permanently? And yeah, my clock's still running. It says 55.
No, it's 3 minutes.
Oh, well, it's still counting down.
No, the red comes on, it's
Well, y'all gotta fix y'all clock. That's not my fault. That's not my fault. But I just wanted to make sure you understood that. Mr. Gaudet, I'll come to your house, me and my child, and we'll sit there and converse with education.
Next.
Good evening, board. Good to see most of y'all again.
Thank you. It's been a while.
Dad in hospital, got COVID, so it's been real for the family. Uncle just passed on Monday, so lots been going on. But I just wanted to add with the superintendent search firm, can we please, when we go out there and search, can we get a candidate that has some teaching experience? It's important to understand what a classroom is. It's great to be a business leader. There's nothing against business. What we need to serve these children is somebody that understands what it's like in a classroom. We do a disservice when you put somebody in charge of a school system our size that doesn't know what a teacher is, that doesn't know what an administrator is. It needs to be in our search criteria. A lot of ed reformers love to come in here and say, let's get somebody from the business community and let's run it like a business. You're not a business. This isn't profit and loss. This is my daughter you're talking about. This is her education and her future. It is important to me as a parent. It's important to me as an educator. My wife is a parent and educator. We're both in your system. Send our child to your system. That an educator is what we need in this system. They understand what goes on in my daily life when I go into that classroom. They understand what's happening at the school level as an administrator. You don't understand that fully if you come in with a business degree and you spend a couple years as an assistant superintendent. You don't understand that. You don't understand about building the relationships. It takes time. The first year and second year I had teaching, I don't have the same relationships that I have today. You're shaking your head, you understand that. Just last year, I taught somebody that I had taught her sister and coached her brother before. That's relationships. Teachers and administrators and people who are in education, they understand how important that is. So we need somebody with a real background in education. Not, hey, I came over and I spent a couple years in some training program to make it look like I'm in education. No, a real educator. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other comments from the in-person audience? Seeing none, I will go to the internet, and Madam Secretary, please make sure I catch all of them. This is from Francis Norman. My nieces and nephews, as well as many of my friends who are educators in the EBRPSS school system have been very upset at the lack of leadership available during this major transitionary period. Adam Smith has already been doing the job of interim superintendent, as well as being supportive and understanding of the concerns of faculty, staff, and parents. I urge the board to listen to their constituents and appoint someone with the experience necessary for these interesting times we live in. From Cassandra Beverly, I am a retired EBR educator with a grandson in an EBR school. I'm asking the board to give serious consideration to Mr. Adam Smith as superintendent. Mr. Smith has climbed the ranks from student teaching to interim superintendent. For too long, we've hired outsiders who may have experience but really don't know what the system entails. It takes time, and right now, time is not on our side. We have qualified leaders right here at home. Let's not waste any more time or money. From Storm Matthews, I believe that the pictures and comments that have surfaced since the search ended prove furthermore the ethics violation that took place during the search. From Jasmine Pogue, I agree with Mr. Lannis. The public will be very upset if we rush this process. If the interim is 6 months, then let's do a full 6 months and get a full search. We need to review community input, as Sierra said. Things have changed since last year. Are there any other comments you see? Okay. From Neil Patel. Just moments ago, we heard from board members and the public that we should swiftly name a permanent superintendent. Now the board thinks they can wait 3, 5, or 6 months or longer before naming a permanent superintendent. As I mentioned before, I believe every child deserves a great education, and without an understanding, bold, innovative leader, we're leaving our children with a year status quo. These students deserve our attention today, not in the future. In my opinion, it is unacceptable given this crisis we face right now. We have nationally recognized suburb candidates that were just praised by this board. Folks around the country would like to have them in their communities, but yet you believe there's a hero hiding in the wings that was missed just a couple of short months ago. I do not believe conducting another search at this time is appropriate or prudent. Parents and teachers are suffering, but students are the victim tonight. Students, students, students. Leslie Chow. The white board members just proved that they care more about race than anything else. The comment made throughout Dr. Towns and Mrs. Brown's search was, I wish we could choose them both. And you were given the opportunity and you did not do what you said. How do you think that looks to our children? It looks like these white board members lie and only care about racial lines when voting. A superintendent does not need an educator's background to lead a district. They need a background to lead. Please read the background of Dr. Towns. And I see no others. Is that, Madam Secretary, is that all? I've just refreshed. I see no more under this item. Let's see. On the list, Ms. Collins. Or is that from the past? It was from almost 20 minutes ago, so it might be from the past. Oh, that was before. You spoke since then. It's fine. We went to you before Mr. Guerrero. But if you have more to say, please feel free.
I just do want to say that some people made reference to some concern about this particular consulting firm. And I do share those sentiments. And so my vote is reflective of that concern, not the process going forward on this item. Thank you.
Okay. It was Teams. No. Thank you. Are there any other comments from any other board members? And I did get a message from Mr. Guerrero and Ms. Jones saying that it was a Teams issue that they could not pull in, and it was not a user error, it was a Teams issue. Because they know how to do team meetings. With that, are there any other comments from the board? Madam Secretary, it's been a long night and a long list of comments, so could you just please reread the motion?
A friendly amendment to authorize JG Consulting to conduct the search for superintendent as soon as practical.
Thank you. Ms. Bernard.
I just wanted to say that the most important thing to me is that we conduct a fair and open search. And I don't see that there were really any problems with the previous search. We did conduct all of our meetings virtually when COVID came up, so I'm in support of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from any other board members? Seeing none, Madam Secretary?
Please vote. Oh, sorry, hold on. Now please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. Now we move on to item I6, consideration of request for the approval of the appointment of an interim superintendent for a maximum of 6 months. Would someone like to make a motion? The floor is open to make a motion that nominates someone for interim superintendent. Would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Collins.
I would like to nominate Adam Smith.
You would like to make a motion to appoint Adam Smith as interim superintendent for a period not to exceed 6 months.
Yes.
That's what you'd like to say?
Yes. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? A second by Mr. Howard. So the motion is to appoint Mr. Adam Smith by Ms. Collins and Mr. Howard. Ms. Dyson, you have the floor.
Yes, first I'd like to say that I think we would be remiss as we're going through all of these items to not, as a board, send our prayers up for our most recent superintendent, Leslie Brown, and that, as you can tell by the items tonight, you are greatly missed. And we just want you to know that. And I also would like to take this moment to express my deep respect and appreciation to our leadership team and how you have stepped up during this challenging time and divided responsibilities, and how much this board member appreciates how that has worked most efficiently, and I really, really appreciate everyone for that. And I'd like to offer a substitute motion, and that is to simply remain with leadership as is, and during this search, and concentrate our focus on the ultimate goal of hiring our new superintendent. And then I'd like to say that, you know, it's really worked so well, and I just commend our team. And I just don't see that we gain anything by changing what is working, and it's not, I just think that the least disruption or changes right now, the better. And I hope that everyone understands how much we appreciate. I just don't feel that it's in anyone's best interest to have a change in that structure, reporting structure, all of that right now. It's actually been quite impressive to see our team step up. So, thank you.
So, to To be clear, your motion is to allow...
To remain with leadership as is and concentrate our focus on the ultimate goal of hiring our new superintendent.
Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just a point of order, but I'll wait till we get the motion straight before I act. But before we consider the substitute, I wanted to get input from council on any legal considerations.
Sure. We don't have a second yet to the motion.
Sure. Again, the substitute motion would be for us to remain with leadership as is currently, and you could add with the divided roles, and concentrate our focus on the ultimate goal of hiring our new superintendent and you can even as expeditiously as possible.
Are you up to date? While you're getting the exact wording, I have a call for a second. Is there a second to the motion? I will second the motion. So the motion on the floor is to, while she's getting the exact wording, the motion currently on the floor is to not appoint an interim and remain in the leadership status that we're in. Ms. Collins.
Try my best to be polite. But I just think it's just blatantly disrespectful to say that it's a good idea to proceed with two heads while there has not been drama, while it has been great teamwork between Mr. Smith and Mr. Nikes. You can't keep going with two heads like this for potentially 6 months or 4 months or 3 months. There will be a moment where there is going to be a need for an ultimate decision maker. And I do not want to see us go through the chaos of what it would look like should that moment arise. And it's not necessary to do so. Exactly. If this not even, it's just not even the most efficient way for us to say we want to move forward in the process. I completely disagree. And I'll keep my comments simple because, and stop at that point because my true frustration is likely to show when I'm trying my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Next is Ms. Bernard. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Lannis.
Yes, first I want to say I have a grave amount of respect for both Mr. Smith and Mr. Nikes. The way you all have served during this entire pandemic or since the superintendent had to step down, my hat goes off to you. But what I will say, and what I will piggyback on, is that it is time to select someone tonight. Not two people, but one. Our district needs leadership. That's not taking anyone and placing them or putting them or giving them more authority over the other, but I think it is time that we come up with a right solution tonight. Give Mr. Smith an opportunity to lead. I think he deserves it. And when dating all the way back to the search, several members came to me when we voted, and the ones that voted for Mrs. Smith, they had nothing but the utmost things to say. Give him a shot. Give him an opportunity. He has displayed it. Over 20 years working in the system, working in almost every single department. He knows this system probably better than anyone that we know. Give him a shot tonight. Please. Thank you.
Mr. Blue and then Mr. Howard. They're not in there.
Mr. Blue?
Thank you. My only question, I just wanted from council if there's any legal considerations that would impact our decision in terms of whether their current structure allows us to meet all legal obligations, or there's something we're not considering.
Yes, sir. Revised statute 1754B. I'm going to read it to the board so you guys get some clarity. It states the board may, by a majority vote of its membership, select a person to serve as interim superintendent in the event of the death, resignation, or termination of the superintendent or his being placed on paid administrative leave. And so my strict reading of the statute for this purpose is it should be one person. And it does say, and I hear Ms. Dice indicating it says may by a majority vote of its membership. And again, my reading of may, it basically states that, and again, this is all about legal interpretation, and you guys pay me to interpret. The board may appoint an interim superintendent in lieu of a permanent appointment. And that's how I read it. So that's my interpretation, but it is a person to serve as interim superintendent.
And to be clear, the motion is not suggesting dual interims. The motion is suggesting no interim at this time.
That's correct. However,
I'm just trying to be clear.
I do need to point this out.
Thank you.
There's a need, however, that if you take this route, and I have to say this, Mr. Goldie, as legal counsel, the district has some needs in terms of banking, signatures, et cetera. We will have to tackle that in another motion.
Absolutely. Thank you. No other.
Well, I guess just to repeat what I was asking in terms of a practical matter. One is banking. Are there any other considerations from a legal standpoint we have to consider with are we limited with the current structure we have?
Well, we would need to entertain a motion by the board to authorize an individual to handle signatory authority with regard to banking and contracts.
So we don't have that now?
No, sir.
Okay. And what? Okay, I've got it.
No, go ahead.
I think that answers it.
Thank you. Let's see, it's Mr. Howard's next. It's not showing up on my screen. Mr. Howard.
Excuse me, Mr. Long, but everyone else has had the opportunity to talk. We will vote on it when it's time for us to vote on it. Now, you have been making silly comments this entire night. I wish you would just shut up and let everybody run your
Sir,
speaker.
please.
Well, she has been making comments all night, and you have not said one word. I just wanted to lift up the same thing that my colleague just stated, that we need to have someone in place and in order. I have not said one word to her. She has been making comments, racially charged and everything else this entire night. Y'all talked about the China virus and everything else.
That's
so
the
I'm just trying
craziest
to
thing
talk
I've ever
about
heard.
the comment that I wanted to make.
Racial comment in a board.
All I'm saying is that I wanted to lift up what Ms. Collins just stated, that we need a leader in charge to make decisions. I have not said anything like anyone else spoke. I have sat here and listened. Now I'm speaking, and she's still speaking, and you as the president have not had a point of order with her.
Are you done, sir? Thank you. Ms. Dyson.
I just again would like to, and I'd like to point to, yes, we may, and if we do, it's for a maximum of 6 months. But it does not say that we shall. And I know from a long time of service and a long time of reading these contracts and all of these things that there is a big distinction in legal terminology between may and shall. And I just feel like we're working so well, and I have full faith that we will continue to work well, and I don't intend for this to take 6 months. And I have that much faith in our whole team and how well they have done together. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands that it is not because I disrespect someone. It's because I respect all of them and how great of a job they're doing, keep working through this unprecedented time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tappan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I support the underlying motion and not the substitute, primarily for the purpose, well, first off, I have great confidence in our senior staff. I always have. I think they're very responsive. I think they do a great job. It's the part of the work, other than visiting the schools, that I enjoy most. And so I do have great confidence in Adam and really all the senior staff. I look at things a little bit more, for me it's a structural issue. I want one person to be accountable while we're in the interim status. I want one person that I can go to. It is this board member's practice over the years to always bring any issues that I have that constituents may bring up, or that other people may bring up, or things that happen in the district, to go to one person, whether it was Warren Drake or Bernard Taylor or John Dilworth or whoever it was. Never had a chance to really work closely with Ms. Jacobs. But I like that single point of contact. I like that single point of responsibility. And so that is why I support it. And look, let me be clear. If I'm not on the winning side, it's okay. I'm not mad at y'all. It's cool. It's just my opinion. And it's where I am. If you want, we can go have a Coke after. But the reality of it is I do like the structure of a single point of contact. And so I support the underlying motion and not the substitute motion. So, thank you.
Mr. Lannis?
I'll just say I heard a lot of things, and again, before I say what I'm about to say, this has nothing to do with either Mrs. Smith or Mr. Nikes. But to say that everything has been going fine is clearly just not true. We have 5 schools just a week ago that had to shut down. That needs to be one person that can point and say how we fix that. You can't do that with 2 people trying to dual the role out, or trying to have a dual role. We have parents that are steadily sending us emails saying schools are not being properly cleaned. You can't fix that problem with a dual role. You need one person or one point of contact, which is the reason why we need to move forward going with one person. And we already know it's an interim position. It's not permanent, it's interim. That way we can move forward and have solid leadership to fix and tackle a lot of the issues that we have.
Thank you. I have my name in the list now, and I just wanted to be clear about a couple of things. One, the only reason I seconded the motion was to be able to have the discussion about the pros and cons. Secondly, I mean absolutely no disrespect to Mr. Smith in this. I have ultimate confidence in his ability, but I do have a concern in that the fact that we've just voted to go for a search, and Mr. Smith was one of the finalists in that search, and there's a great possibility that he will again put his name into that, and he could be a very well qualified candidate. But I do worry in a great deal that having Mr. Smith as interim superintendent will impact the quality of the other candidates we will get, because they will get the sense, and you've heard many people come up in here speak about how they want him as superintendent, that the search would be a sham search, and that we will not get the quality of the people applying to that in order to be able to have a true search. And so that is my only caution in this. I have absolutely nothing against Mr. Smith at all. I have full confidence in him. My concern is more about the impact on the search and the quality of the candidates and the number of candidates we will get, because they'll think, well, he got voted as an interim, it's obvious he's going to be a candidate for the finalist, and it's a fixed deal, why bother because as soon as they put the application in, it becomes a public record. Their current employer knows that they put it in. So I'm thinking down the road on this and thinking about how does appointing Mr. Smith as an interim tonight impacts what we will get in our search process. And that is the only reason I seconded this motion, so we could talk about it and understand that. I mean no disrespect to Mr. Smith. He and I had a great conversation today. But that is my true concern. Are we torpedoing this search? And I want to say that if Mr. Smith is put in as interim, I have no problem with that. But I want to clearly go to state on the record that that is an interim position, and that I, for one, as a board member, am totally wide open to whoever comes up within the candidate pool within our search, that it is not a closed deal or a done deal that we will go with Mr. Smith just because we made him interim. And again, I have full confidence in Mr. Smith. This is nothing about Mr. Smith. But I do want to make sure that we have a valid search that is not short-circuited by an impression that the fix is in and it's going to be Mr. Smith coming no matter what. So that is my only reason to consider this motion and the only reason I wanted the discussion. So thank you. Ms. Dyson.
I just wanted to really echo every part of that Mr. Goday just pointed out. That is the only reason why I feel it best for everyone to just remain as is. And I think that I also want to point out that, you know, differences of opinion up here on our board are healthy. And also listening to other board members' comments and feelings and keeping an open mind while we're trying to make our own decisions, I think is healthy. And maybe someone brings up a point that I or you haven't considered, and I think that's healthy dialogue if we just keep it healthy. And you know, I just think that this whole process is difficult, and I urge us to not be so definite on our opinions until we listen to each other at these board meetings and on these difficult items. Thank you.
Thank you. Who is? Mr. Ballou.
You know, the more I've listened, I think it does make sense to have one person in charge for the ease of operations. I don't really care. I don't have a specific person in mind, it doesn't matter, but if our option is having no one as interim or Mr. Smith as interim, then that's the option I would take. But unless you know, the substitute motion had
we can't have a substitute motion to a substitute.
No, unless they're willing to. Ms. Dyson's willing to modify her substitute motion. But if what she really wants is no interim, then I think I'll vote against that.
Please explain what you're asking.
I guess what I'm saying is I think it would serve us best to have one person in charge. But I think Mr. Goday made a good point in terms of the having a finalist who put his interim in the impression that would mean that we're, you know, the fix is in. What I'm saying is that if you have another option in terms of a interim, if you're willing to modify your substitute motion. If not, that's fine. We can vote as is.
Okay, let me answer that to what I think you're saying here. and that is that you would suggest that my substitute motion includes naming someone else. Maybe what I could do is to make my substitute motion, to modify it and say that we would appoint one person who will then not be applying for the permanent position. And then we take that problem of the appearance of a rigged search or something like that off the table. And then we decide who.
That sounds overly complicated,
Yeah.
so I'll leave it alone.
Yeah, I wouldn't accept that anyway, as a second. So, seeing no other requests to speak, or Madam Secretary, am I missing someone? Ms. Ware Jackson. Ms. Ware Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. And I appreciate the elephants coming out. The elephant in the room is all about having someone that will apply. And but you know, I've talked about leadership. You know, needing someone urgently. You know, we need someone who is the go-to person. You know, we need a leader right now. And we lost our leader. You know, I was hoping that we could get someone permanent, a permanent leader very quickly, but that's not the case. And I know that there are some people that, you know, have fear, but I'm pretty confident that Mr. Smith will do a very good job. And he's always been fair, and 9 times out of 10, when I call the superintendent about anything, any parent problem, guess who he was leading me to? You know, Mr. Smith. So I stand behind it, and I support the original motion to have Mr. Smith as interim. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bernard.
Thank you. I question the legality of requiring the person who is being appointed as interim.
Yeah, that's not on the table.
Oh, okay.
It was not, that was not made as such a motion.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just questioned the legality of it. I just wanted to say that.
Are there any more comments? Ms. Dyson.
So I have been listening to my colleagues, and I'll just remove my substitute motion, if the second is good with that.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I now have the floor, and I would like to make a substitute motion nominating Mr. Warren Drake to be interim superintendent. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Ballou. And I'd like to say the reason I am doing that is I've heard a lot of talk about stability, a lot of talk about someone who knows, a lot of talk about someone who does not need to learn the district, learn the area, or do anything else and provide continuity and no changes. And I think Mr. Drake can bring that. And I think with Mr. Drake, we also alleviate the issue which I spoke before about the impact on the potential search by having an interim that is part of the search, and the impact of quality and quantity of the people that would apply for the search. Again, I mean zero disrespect for Mr. Smith, I think he does an excellent job as what he does, and I'm trying to leave a clear path open for him to be able to apply for the superintendent position, but also to be fair to all of the students in this district, that we have an open and valid search, that we obtain all of the quality candidates that we can. So that is my reason for making that motion. Did you say Mr. Stites? Did you say? Oh, Mr. Blue second, okay. Comments, Mr. Lannis? Or, yeah, Mr. Lannis.
I'll just say again, I have a great amount of respect for Mr. Drake for the years he's given this district. But I will say this, at what point do we listen to the community? At what point do we listen to our teachers? At what point do we listen to our students? They come in here every single month, 2 times a month. They tell you how they feel, yet nothing changes. And we expect them to have full faith and belief that we're going to do the best job that we can for them. We wonder why we have the rift that we have on our board. We wonder why we go through a lot of the things that we go through internally. And it's because we don't listen to the people that matter the most, the people who give their most precious investment to us to take care of it. We don't listen. They say who they want, but we're going to tell them who we're going to give them. And we expect them to just be okay with it. Same thing we've been doing for years. As I said before, this is called insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting different results. When does it change? But then you get mad at parents for taking their kids out of our schools and putting them elsewhere. But this is the difference. The schools that they take their kids to, they listen. But we are the stewards of our district, and we don't listen to the people who entrust us with their kids, who entrust us with their tax dollars, and we expect things to change. I'll just say, y'all keep praying. Community, keep faith. Keep doing what you are doing, keep speaking out, because it's the only way your voices are going to be heard. Don't give up, because some of us will never give up on you, I promise you.
No other, Ms. Ware Jackson.
My apologies, I can't get in the queue. And,
Ms. Jackson, I'm sorry, we cannot hear you.
Pardon me, I could not get in the queue. I couldn't get on Teams, but
Thank you.
I wish we were in executive session, because I'll tell you exactly what I thought. But again, I'll say what I said before. When I ask Mr. Drake about something, he sends me the answer. And I think that speaks a lot for Mr. Smith and his knowledge of the district, and I think he'd do well to hold the fort down. I understand the concerns about how it may seem to a pending candidate. I understand that, I'm a little bit torn about that, but right now, the thing we need to focus on is what we need right now in the district. And, we can't have a permanent superintendent. I believe that we need to appoint Mr. Smith. And I'm going to say this anyway. I have very little confidence in Mr. Drake. We've had months and months of time to get ready for the school year, to get a plan for COVID, and the plan I saw was no plan at all.
Ms. Ware Jackson, I'm going to have to jump in and caution you. Some of this discussion might be more appropriate for executive session as you're discussing a person's qualifications. So I do want to warn you.
Okay? let me, so I'll just stop it right there, but I would not support that.
Thank you.
Stay home.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak? And I do want to assure everyone that the reason I put that motion up is to get all the available options on the table so that we can have a full and fair and open discussion of all of the options. Ms. Bernard.
I just wanted to ask, did anyone ask for this to be a roll call vote? Are we having a roll call vote on this?
No one has asked yet.
Okay, shouldn't it be a roll call vote?
If you'd like to request one, it's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Now we will go to the audience.
Hello, my name is Harman. I'm representing Step Up Louisiana along with our partnering organizations, East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators, the Progressive Social Network of Baton Rouge, and the Baton Rouge NAACP chapter. Members of the board, as Mr. Adam Smith was our preferred choice for permanent superintendent when we began this arduous odyssey, we respectfully request that he be appointed interim superintendent. During such a time of uncertainty, we must have someone that knows of all the intricacies of our school system. Having served in almost every capacity we offer during his 24-year tenure, there is little that he could be faced with that he would not be prepared and qualified to lead us through. Though Mr. Smith is a humble man, we as educators, never seeking the spotlight, but rather seeking to place our students among the stars to shine the way we as educators, community leaders, and parents all know they can. He deserves this position in which he can showcase his experience and knowledge. He is a proven and versatile educational leader with quality experiences in sustained academic improvement achieved through best practices, diverse experiences in organizational and institutional management and educational administration, and is committed to collaborative district-wide culture, which is why people from all over the parish, including parents, teachers, school leadership, and central office, and board members have turned to Mr. Smith for guidance during these very difficult times. Mr. Smith is beyond qualified to perform in this capacity and has been consistently relied upon by the very members of this board during this transition with both the pandemic and the changing of superintendents. His leadership has been at the forefront of every challenge this district has faced, including stepping in to create a task force for COVID-19. Moving forward, we believe he has the qualifications and ability to help us have a successful school year while we are in search of a new superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
My name is Storm Matthews, and I am here under Step Up, the organization. I came with some remarks about Mr. Adam Smith, whom I know as a parent through elementary, as a SPED parent, because I am, not a crazy mama bear. I am a grizzly with rabies when it comes to my sons. I have also done summer school with Mr. Adam Smith for 10 years. And as a teacher for 15 years, he has had to give me, because I'm Storm Matthews, he has had to give me that look a time or two. So I came here prepared to discuss all of that and how important he is to this school system for teachers, for parents, for the students, and how needed he is and how tired we are. But you know what, President Godet? Your motion, I have to change everything that I came up here to say. And it's funny, and I hope Ms. Crawford's asleep by now because I promised her I wasn't going to come and then I prayed about it. But today is the 5th anniversary of the first time I died. I have heart failure. I have died 5 times. I don't do humans right now. But I am here because it is that important to me. Because the children of this parish are that important
to me that we have somebody in place like Mr. Adam Smith that cares and will follow through and do what is supposed to be done. And I have to back what Ms. Evelyn Ware Jackson just said. The whole time that, she can't say it, but I can. The whole time that Drake was leaving, he wasn't doing anything. Ms. Brown started working months before her contract started. She came in and was working for free. Completely for free. Learning the job. Getting in there with the task force, with Adam, and with Mr. Nikes, and with everybody else. Drake wasn't doing it then. We asked him to stay on. That was something we asked when the ethics violation came up. And he didn't want to stay. Why would you make that motion? That doesn't make sense. The man sitting next to you for 24 years, he did his student teaching, assistant principal. He has worked in every fashion. There is nothing that man doesn't know and understand about this district. Unless you just want the district to fail and turn it all over to charters.
Thank you. Next.
Angela Reeves Brown, President of the East Baton Rouge Federation of Teachers. Earlier tonight, I shared with you my prepared concerns about the interim and permanent positions for the superintendent for the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. I have not attended a board meeting since the pandemic, and tonight you guys reminded me why I shouldn't have been here. This is a laughing stock. The people at home that are watching you guys, our leaders, are saying, how on earth did they get in them positions? Your true colors are coming out tonight. Don't tell me about it's not a racial thing, because we see it and we hear it. It's really, really sad for you to sit there and say you have the best interest of our students, our employees, and our district, when you actually don't. Some of you have a hidden agenda. You want EBR to fail so that you can put charters in place. The discussion is going on through the community. People know this. But you sit in those seats and you pretend. I don't know how some of you sleep at night. Mr. Smith has been loyal to the school district year after year after year. And if we want to talk about the team that has been making things work, it is a threesome. Mr. McCann, Mr. Nikes, and Mr. Smith. Because every time I had a Zoom meeting, the three of them were always there. If I couldn't get one, I got the other. But even though it was three of them working collectively together, you still had one person who stood out, who you felt comfortable talking to, and you went to. That was Mr. Adam Smith. Now, for the life of me, I don't understand why we have spent hours here talking about something that for any fourth grader, they could have decided this an hour ago. Please search your hearts if you have one and appoint Mr. Adam Smith, interim superintendent for the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. You will need my union again, my 1,200 plus members. You needed us when the last tax passed. We were the reason it passed. Please don't make me rethink that. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Next.
There are at least 3 fully qualified, credentialed potential superintendents present here tonight, and none of them have the last name of Drake. And the only reason I've heard offered to suggest that he would be the appropriate interim superintendent is the fear that nobody would want to compete against Mr. Smith. So I promise if JG invites me to apply, I will apply, even if you appoint the correct person as interim superintendent, and that would be Mr. Smith. So it's ridiculous. It's a red herring to even think about appointing Mr. Drake. And furthermore, when you accepted Ms. Brown's resignation, what seems like hours ago, anybody she designated to have power, that's gone. You need to appoint an interim superintendent tonight, or just all resign. Thanks.
Thank you. Next.
The other morning I woke up and I said to my husband, I'm tired of fighting the same fight, singing the same song, we shall overcome. I hesitated to get up to speak to this motion, but I couldn't help myself. Someone made mention your true colors. Yeah, they're so vibrant. I'm concerned too. I was concerned in the first process that the decks were already stacked with special interest groups, namely business and charter schools. And even then, it was anybody but Adam Smith. I'm concerned too. I'm concerned that race is laced in the motions, the second and third motions that were offered tonight. And you can't convince me otherwise. We have a motion to consider someone who's already on the job and can start tonight. I would ask you to look beyond your bigotry and do the right thing. But I recognize that for some of you, that's impossible because personalities are not likely to change.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Tanya Nyman and Mr. Smith. I'm sorry I missed the opportunity to express support for for being appointed permanent superintendent in the first measure. I would have gotten up and spoken that at the time too if I thought it was appropriate. But I stand now to support your appointment as interim. I have great respect for Mr. Drake. I think that very often he doesn't even get enough credit. But at this time, I think Mr. Smith is certainly capable and the best person for the job. And if, in fact, his appointment as interim means that he is even more likely to get the permanent position, that's because, not because it weakened the search, but because he's the best candidate for the permanent position. You can see that he has the support of the immediate stakeholders, the people with the kids in the public schools, as well as the teachers who work in those schools. So I hope we will see that he is appointed the interim tonight. And I hope 6 months down the road, he is also named the permanent superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Much later, good evening. I think you know where I stand on this one. I've always spoke up as somebody who wants an educator in the role of leading educators. You're not going to sit there and put me on the board of a hospital. I don't know nothing about surgery or being a doctor, so why should I be in charge of it? It's that simple. It's just common sense. And I hope y'all are recording this because I'm actually full in agreement with Mr. Landis. Okay? We can disagree on many things, but on this one, I'm in agreement with him. And when we're together, I'm going to let them know we're together on this one. All right? So, just like you, Mr. Goday, many things we have disagreed with in the past. But we have had conversations about our ESL students and found I teach a lot of ESL students, and I know you have a heart for the ESL students. So even though we disagree on a lot of things, when we're in unison, I'm going to tell you, this one, I'm in agreement with you, Mr. Landis. You're right. All right? The man's been in there 24 years. Every single thing you can do in this school district, he's done. He's shown loyalty. I'm an ex-paratrooper. Loyalty, honor, duty, these things aren't just words to me. They are what we lived and believed, and what we put our friends in the ground for. Honor is something real to me. That's what he has shown. You chose somebody else above him, and he still stayed here loyal to you and our children. That means a lot to us. That should mean something to you. And if I have a minute and a half, I'm going to speak on something about the district. All right? Now, we all talk about doing something for the children, and maybe you can correct me if I'm a little wrong. Is it 84% of our students are African American or minority? 85? 83? 83%. Okay. Why we have 5 white Republicans in a school district where 83% are African Americans? It's that simple. You really want to do something? Vote amongst yourself to reapportion the board properly to mirror the district that you represent. It's that simple. That's the first thing that you could do. The simplest thing that you could do to show real leadership to our community. Look like the community that you serve. It's that simple. Second thing, this man has proven himself time and time and time again. As I told you, when you need something from Drake, he sends you to Mr. Smith. That tells you who gets the job done. That's what our children need and they deserve. We're going through a pandemic, something that we have never had to deal with before. We need somebody that will be accountable and that has proven they can get the job done. He's sitting right there. Any other choice is against what's best for my child, our children, the 160 that sit in front of me this year, and our profession. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
This is my first time coming to a board meeting. I've never had to. I thought I would need to. I came here tonight to talk about Terra High School because I feel really bad for going in and seeing what I see. It needs to be moved from number 29 up to number 1, where you all have them scheduled for 2029. I do believe it's being renovated. You need to reconsider. But I'm going to table it, and I'm going to talk to Mr. Smith later tomorrow because I'm going to find his phone number since he's the one that seems to be doing things. I'm appalled because I feel like I'm in a 4th grade class. You all need to come together and see what's good for my child. Maybe you all don't have children that are in the East Baton Rouge school system, and you shouldn't be on the board if you don't. But you need to look at what they need, and what they need is someone who's, I saw you shake your head. They're going to need somebody that's going to take care of them so that they can grow up to be president of the United States, if that's where they want to be. East Baton Rouge Parish has been going down. Some of us might not be afford to able to send them to a private school like you can. So they go to Terra. You should look at everything that we are going through and see that our kids need a leader. If Mr. Smith is the one that needs to be here, put him there. If you all can't agree on something as simple as this, you can't agree on anything else. Stop fighting amongst yourself and become a one group. That's what you're telling my kids to be when they're at school. When something goes wrong, you go in there and say, this is what you need to do. Well, this is what you guys need to do. You all need to learn to work together. I'm going to read one thing, and this is what my son and his friends said that play football. They said, we're not being educated or prepared for contests fairly. Every other school in the district has things that we do not have. That destroys the moral of the student mentally and physically, knowing that they are being mistreated when attending Terra High School. We are being mistreated here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
And I'm going home.
One phrase comes to mind: one team, one mission. One team, one mission. That's what you want us to be, as educators, as parents, and as community members. But why can't I see that with the school board? One team, one mission. Why can't we, with 83% of the students that look like me, why can't we see one team, one mission? Why is it that we have to get up here and beg master to make decisions for our children? 83% that look like me. And yet you get to make decisions based upon how you were elected because you have a majority again. But 83% of the children in this district look like me. Now let's talk about the educators that look like me. Let's talk about the educators who are stressed to the max, dealing with online lesson plans and the gamut. And let's talk about what they desire. They desire a leader who is willing to lead, someone who has been faithful to this district. But you sit there and you make decisions fight left in me before I retired. And then when I retired, I still got fight left in me. There's one thing I know. My ancestors knew how to fight. So you can sit here and make decisions that are contrary to what we have requested of you, but just know that we come and fight. Because there is a man that has to sit there and hear you say to him that he who has led this district, that he has to sit there and hear you say something negative about why he can't continue in what he's been doing. And you sit there on your high horses. One team, one mission. I'm going to say that again. We have come and we have asked you what to do. We have begged you. But you say to us, one team, one mission. Well, we don't go to sleep at night. In the middle of the night, I'm still up, deciding on things to do to make my classroom effective. To love on my children. To help them to understand that even at 4, that you have a purpose and a plan, and we're here to support you. I'm on pictures, coming up with ideas. Not an educator in this district works from the time they get to school to the time they leave. Every single one of them puts in extra minutes, extra time, and extra hours. One team, one mission. I'm going to say that again.
Thank you. Next. Sure.
I just didn't think it was appropriate for the child to be in here to hear it. Because for some reason or another, we never consider the children. The children are supposed to be our future, and unfortunately, that's not important enough for Ms. Dyson to still be in her seat. But my child is part of that future. Our children are supposed to be our future educators, our future doctors, our future lawyers, our future politicians. They're supposed to be our future that create schools like your Thrive School, Mr. Mike O'Day. When I think about the future, it sometimes seems to get a little blurry and a little black. Because right now, when I look at what the future is of what our school board is doing to a man, a human being that has given so much of his life and time, that it doesn't seem to be too much of an importance to Mr. Blue or Mr. Tapman to be able to look up in my face when I say that my child matters. Does your children matter? Does your grandchildren matter? How is their future? Does their future look sighted to you? Because I think about what the children with disabilities, the many obstacles that they are faced with every single day of their life. And it has been one individual that's sitting up there at that table named Mr. Adam Smith that has made sure that my child has a future that is bright. A child that was deemed nonverbal actually was able to tell me mama because of a man that's sitting up there at that table named Adam Smith. When I think about my child not being able to make eye contact with other people, but because of this one individual, making sure that my child had educators that actually loved him, that actually showed him what education is supposed to be on an every single day basis, made a difference. My child actually had all A's and 1 B because of a man named Adam Smith. It wasn't because of Gwen Shamlin, it wasn't because of Mike Gaudet, it wasn't because of our former school board president, Mr. Tapp. It was because of Mr. Adam Smith. When I asked for y'all to keep Mr. Warren Drake, you said no. You wanted that superintendent search, even though I pay taxes in multiple districts and asked for you to keep him. You said no. But then when I came up here and I asked for you to give Mr. Adam Smith and Dr. Quintina Timmel an opportunity representation, great leadership. So when I ask about leadership, I ask about leadership that is going to be liberating, one that has a strategic plan, one that has a vision, one that is bold with a goal, one that has a real true mission, one that when I wind it up, every time I open up my eyes and wind it up, I think about Mr. Adam Smith making a great impact in my child's life. And just like your children are doctors, I want my child to be a doctor.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I just ask that this board do what's right. We're supposed to be electing an interim. Elect him. He's sitting right there in front of me. So I thank you, Mr. Adam Smith, for everything that you do for my child and all of the other children in our school system, whether this school board tells it to you in your face or not. And I hope you hear it from my heart and from my mind. But I appreciate you, Mr. Gaudet, for that time, so that I can tell him that to his face and in front of you and all of the rest of our leaders that are supposed to do what's right for our children. So please do what's right for my child.
Next.
Good evening. My name is Lamont DuBose. I'm the Executive Vice President of East Baton Rouge Federation of Teachers and a taxpayer. And a retired teacher of 11 years in East Baton Rouge Parish. I can't understand why you would call Mr. Drake back when we're sitting in the middle of a pandemic. You're already saying that we're scuffing for dollars, the tax base is gone. You rather pay him and just, I guess, squander our money rather than paying a man that's already on payroll. And when I was working, like everybody that has come up here and said, whenever I needed help, that's the person they pointed me to. But the main reason why I wasn't going to come up, but when you named Warren Drake, why would you name Warren Drake when you got to pay him extra money? I mean, do y'all know something that we don't know about the tax base is still there? I think you all are trying to look at ways to save money where you don't have to pay out extra money as opposed to, but I mean, from what I'm hearing, it's like you want to squabble the money. You know, a 2-year-old can make that decision. If I got a man that I'm already paying, I'm going to name him as superintendent, as opposed to somebody that's not even on payroll, that's extra money. So all I can say is do the right thing.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience? I will begin reading the comments from the internet. This is, where are my glasses? From Ashley Soot. I am writing as an EBR school parent in support of appointing Adam Smith as interim superintendent for EBR schools. My husband and I have a daughter in 3rd grade in Mayfair Lab School, and we are huge supporters of EBR public schools, and we believe Mr. Smith is the right person to fill the vacancy. We hope that will be a smooth transition. Eric Johnson. I support Adam Smith to be installed as superintendent of EBR schools. Natalie Roy. Please support Mr. Adam Smith as interim superintendent. Mr. Smith has demonstrated his loyalty and concern for the district with his decades of service to EBR schools. He is efficient, knowledgeable, and dedicated. I have the utmost confidence in his leadership skills. Ashley Roderick. I am commenting in support of Adam Smith for interim superintendent of EBR schools. I'm a parent of a student in EBR and a teacher in EBR, and I know firsthand that Mr. Smith is the only person qualified to be named interim superintendent. He is a consummate professional and has served the students and teachers of EBR well during his tenure in our district. Mr. Gaudet, I often why you serve on the board due to your lack of experience in and concern for public schools. I hope you will step up today and show you have my child and all children attending EBR schools' best interests at heart by naming Mr. Adam Smith as interim superintendent. Megan Shaheen Dean. No need spending more time or money on another superintendent search. Our children and teachers don't have a minute to waste. We already have the right person, Adam Smith. We need a superintendent who understands our children and our schools, and Adam Smith is the person for the job. Noel Allison. The appointment of Adam Smith in the role of interim superintendent must be a refreshingly easy decision in a year full of uncertainty and questions. He has demonstrated a record of excellence within our school district and is committed to the continued growth and development of our students and schools. As a parent of 4 children in EBR schools, I request that you vote to make him interim superintendent tonight. Laura Dunn. Mr. Smith was the first principal I ever had the honor to work under, even though I came to our school the same year as he did. It was so clear from the faculty response that he was a tremendously positive leader for students and staff. He taught me so many invaluable lessons, and I am so grateful that I got to work with him, especially so early in my career, because he helped frame what it means to cultivate a safe and inviting school environment. He also pushed me to hold students to a higher bar so they would be truly prepared to thrive. 15 years later, he is still one of the best administrators I have ever worked under, and since teaching in the charter world of New Orleans for the last 10 years, I have worked under so many different administrators. He's the type of person that inspires the best in others. Jessica Stroke. I fully support appointing Adam Smith to become the interim superintendent. As a parent of 2 children in an EBRPSS, I know Adam Smith works tirelessly for our district. He will be able to provide excellent leadership in this time when leadership is so desperately needed. Amy Dunham. Appoint Adam Smith. Allison Purdue. As a parent of 2 EBR public school children, I want to express my support for Adam Smith to serve as interim superintendent during the search for a new permanent superintendent. Mr. Smith is familiar with the district, and this would prove invaluable during the transition time. Our school has already seen a difficult year, so the continuity Mr. Smith will offer is important. Claire Casey Pittman. I fully support Adam Smith for the appointment as interim superintendent, and I highly recommend the board consider appointing Mr. Smith as the permanent EBRPSS superintendent. My fellow Flame parents and I have worked for several years with Mr. Smith. He has always made himself available to listen to parents concerned about immersion and our growing program. He has shown a genuine interest with EBR's unique immersion program and has been one of our biggest supporters. Again, please consider appointing Mr. Adam Smith as interim superintendent. Furthermore, please consider appointment of Mr. Smith as superintendent of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. From Hannah Bergman. As a former teacher in EBR and now a parent of 6 kids in our school system, I support Adam Smith to the position of interim superintendent. I had the opportunity to meet personally with Mr. Smith in the last few years to express concerns about academic program. I found him to be attentive and committed to students in the district and the unique programs you can't easily find in public or private schools in our district or state. He has not only served us as assistant superintendent, but his history as a teacher in our schools demonstrates a commitment to public education in Baton Rouge. Quite frankly, we would be better served if the overwhelming voice of our board was that of educators and parents within our system. He is intimately aware of the challenges that our teachers, parents, and students in our community faces. Do what is right for schools, especially for those that are often overlooked, overwhelmed, and under-resourced. Tanya Nyman. Please appoint Mr. Adam Smith as interim superintendent of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. Mr. Smith has the knowledge and experience our school system needs, especially at this time, and he has the support of the immediate stakeholders, the parents who send their children to East Baton Rouge Parish Public Schools, and the teachers who work in those schools. As a parent with 2 children in the EBR public school system, I wholeheartedly recommend Adam Smith for this appointment. From Sari Piazza. As a parent with children at Westdale Middle and Westdale Heights Academic Magnet, I am supportive of Adam Smith as interim superintendent. Jennifer Carwile. I had followed the superintendents closely and had been in the community interviews with Dr. Towns and Mrs. Brown. I am very disappointed that Mrs. Brown had to resign, as I look forward to what she had to bring to our district. When it comes to naming the interim superintendent, I urge you to appoint from within. At this point in the school year, we do not need another outsider who is familiar with our system to come in mid-year and mid-pandemic. As Mr. Smith was one of the finalist candidates for the position, it makes most sense to appoint him. I seem to recall Mr. Guerrero would say that they were so confident in the process that if their candidate did not last a certain amount of time, they would redo the search. As Dr. Towns and Dr. Tamal have accepted new jobs, they are not likely viable candidates. It seems like they would need to redo the search of us in a timely manner. Jane Goodman. Mr. Smith helped us so much when our daughter was in 7th grade at Glasgow Middle in 2012. We wholeheartedly support him as our choice for interim superintendent. His out-of-the-box advice and action enabled her to achieve goals that otherwise would not have been possible. Anna Fogel. Please appoint Adam Smith as the interim superintendent. I have been working with you for a long time. Adam has been a consistent, calm, and well-liked representative of our district. Allow him to bring some stability during this difficult time. I believe he will make an excellent permanent superintendent, but first things first. Justin Lemoyne. Good morning. I would like to go on record as supporting the appointment of Adam Smith for superintendent. Mr. Smith, interim superintendent. Mr. Smith has been a tremendous asset for the EBR public school system and has been extremely responsive to faculty and parents' requests throughout the evolution of the BR Flame school journey this past year. I appreciate your service and consideration appointing Mr. Smith as interim superintendent. Jeanette Debenham. I fully support the appointment of Adam Smith for interim superintendent. Mr. Smith has always made himself available to listen or meet with me and fellow Flame members on any issues we have. He has shown a genuine interest in our immersion program and has been one of our biggest supporters. Carrie Landry Thomas. I fully support Adam Smith as interim superintendent and frankly as permanent superintendent. He is fully aware of the issues of the district and is the best person to address them. Jasmine Pogue. I would like to voice my support for Adam Smith as interim superintendent of EBR schools. Mr. Smith has been a joy to work with and is always open to speak with anyone who has a concern. During this time of uncertainty, I believe Mr. Smith will be a welcome bit of normalcy. I urge the board to support Mr. Smith as EBR schools interim superintendent. Leanne Lockridge. I am the parent of 2 middle schoolers in the Parish school system, Glasgow, and I strongly encourage the appointment of an interim superintendent with a long-term, broad-range experience in EBR public schools at multiple levels. And I think that will enable the person serving at this difficult time and in a short-term position to both hit the ground running and connect well with important internal and external constituencies. Effective leadership of the district demands that. We need continuity. I see from the website that there are 2 associate superintendents at this time. I presume these are your 2 top candidates. For materials I find online, including Mr. Nikase's vita on LinkedIn and Mr. Smith's publicly available material resulting from his application finalist status in the last search for superintendent, I urge you to select Mr. Smith. He has a long-term track record in EBR public schools as well as the range of administrative experiences to serve the district well in the interim role. Mary Juneau. Mr. Smith exemplifies professionalism. He is knowledgeable about the state and local policies. He understands our diverse student population and their broad educational needs. He works well with parents, faculty, and administrators to find solutions to problems and celebrate all that is good within our system. We need Adam Smith at this challenging time to bring stability and present a clear vision for the future. Paige Caldwell. As a teacher in EBR, I strongly urge the board to appoint Mr. Adam Smith as the interim superintendent. COVID has disrupted every part of our educational system here. It is clear to those of us in the classrooms that there has been minimal planning to prepare for the return to school. It feels as though for too long we haven't had anyone actually in charge. We need someone who is familiar with EBR as a district now. I believe that Mr. Smith is actually committed to our kids, their safety, health, and education. We need that now more than ever. Mr. Howard, can you please prepare to take over in a moment? Nicole Danduran. I am an EBR resident, an active member of PSN, and a proud parent of 2 young children who attend Dufrock Elementary. Adam Smith brings the experience and leadership skills of our district needs to succeed in the coming months. I have personally spoken with Mr. Smith when he reached out to me after previous email to the board, and his knowledge of my children's school and the challenges the district faced and continue to face through COVID impressed me. I have seen some amazing progress in communication for the first time ever. I received official notification robocall to the school about closure before randomly seeing in the paper or shared on Facebook. Dufranc even hosted a virtual town hall meeting and plans to make it a regular event. Mr. Smith is my choice to lead us through this unprecedented school year as interim superintendent. Joanna Haynes, please appoint Mr. Adam Smith interim superintendent. We need institutional continuity, strong leadership, and administrative know-how, especially this year. Mr. Smith is dedicated to EBR schools and can give our system what it needs. Jane Porter Chandler. First, I would like to say how sorry I am to learn about Mrs. Brown's illness and subsequent resignation. We now must pull together and call our wonderful local talent, strength, and experience to get us through this year of agitation, fear, and uncertainty. I strongly urge the appointment of Adam Smith as interim superintendent to guide us through the year with his broad knowledge of and experience in the EBR school system and his compassionate, steady leadership. Hannah Amoroso. I would like to express my sincere prayers for Leslie Brown and her family as they are on a difficult journey dealing with her health. It has been a year full of sudden changes for everyone, and for the sake of continuity and to decrease the chance of further upheaval, I would like to support Adam Smith in the position of interim superintendent for our district. He has the knowledge and experience in our district that is needed to provide calm steadiness that we need to counter the stressful change we have experienced due to COVID-19 and the sudden resignation of Leslie Brown. Please select Adam Smith to be our next superintendent. Nita Reels. I think the correct person for the job is sitting right next to you. Jonathan. It is sad that the board chose Leslie over Nikia. It is not about politics. How do we know y'all not going to do the same thing again? Marie Lawson. East Baton Rouge Parish School System should appoint Adam Smith as the interim superintendent of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System effective immediately. Carl James. Adam Smith, the man is loyal to this district and you want to vote pro-charter people in. Deborah Welch. Please do not play any political games for your own agenda. Please do what is right for our district. Adam Smith is more qualified for this job. Proposed friendly amendment is not so sneaky a way of playing politics. Your constituents see you and will vote accordingly when the time comes again. Ashley Casey. Tell me when you're ready, sir.
I'm ready.
You ready? Thank you.
Give me a break. Actually, Casey, this has been the toughest year ever for teachers and students because of the pedagogical challenges. The last thing we need is bureaucratic who has never taught in K-12 classroom, guiding the ship, especially one like Dr. Towns, who has never been in Baton Rouge. Our best years have come when we have an in-house superintendent who knows the culture and has been an educator. Adam Smith is respected by educators and has a proven track record in EBR. For the sake of a solid school year and respect for the community and the thousands of teachers in EBR, please appoint him. Leslie Child. The white board members just proved that they care more about race than anything else. The comment made throughout about Dr. Towns and Mrs. Brown's search was, I wish we could choose them both. And you were given the opportunity, you did not do what you said. How do you think this looks to our children? It looks like these white board members lie and only care about racial lines when voting. A superintendent does not need an educator's background to lead the district. They need a background to lead. Please read the background of Dr. Towns before you make comments that she's not an educator. Jennifer Horner. Adam Smith has a proven track record of leadership, skill set, and demonstrated dedication to our school system. He has a full understanding of challenges currently facing our district due to the COVID pandemic. Appointing Mr. Smith as the interim will provide parents, students, and staff with the stability and continuity that is so important during these trying times, especially since it appears that we're completely going back to the drawing board with a new search for a permanent replacement. Please do the right thing and appoint Mr. Smith as the superintendent. Jill, you really do not want a black superintendent. You want to keep it as if instead of having a black leader. I am sure if any case was up for this for you would vote quickly, completely unbelievable. You were the only main person saying you would want both Towns and Brown, but you quickly voted against Towns tonight. Another example of a white woman playing nice and wearing a mask, and she's truly a racist. We do not need you, our kids do not need you. Arian St. Julian, to appoint an interim is a slap in the face to Mr. Smith and Mr. Nikes, as well as the employees that work hard and dedicated to the district, but most importantly, the children of the district. I agree with all the previous commenters that advocate for Mr. Smith. If he cannot and will not be the next superintendent, at least allow
Mr. Smith to take on the role as interim. He has led this district without the title already. He continues to show up no matter the circumstance, and all of the candidates is still here. Cassandra Beverly, there is no need for two heads. Are you looking at the experience or perhaps something else? What position does Mr. Case hold, and what is his educational background? Leslie Jones, you guys are here in limbo on another white person who is not half as qualified as a black person. Case didn't even apply. He's not half as qualified. It's shameful that black people really have to be twice as good and still get messed up. This message is clear to the community. Nita Reels, to echo Mr. Landis, I think that it's beyond a point to destroy the public school system by any means necessary. If that means pushing the parents away, pushing the students away, or pushing the teachers away through insanity or chaos, y'all are destroying our issue. Is it by design? Leslie Jones, Adam Smith, black man, these people do not appreciate you. Please see how they're disrespecting you by bringing two white men who did not even ask for the job or apply for the job before you. If you're not appointed, I strongly advise you to take your talents, dedication, and expertise elsewhere. LaPortia, Aspen Gode knows exactly what he is doing. He did this the night of the decision. Wait, and then wait for the decision. Gode shows no leadership in his role. Appoint Smith in the move on to the next item. Stop waiting the waiting game and trying to pull a rabbit out the hat. If we see someone that is more qualified for the position than Adam Smith, being in the position shouldn't even matter. This isn't difficult. Let's call it spade a spade. Gode and Dyson are the ones bringing race into the matter. Donna Hodges. I'm right as a citizen of District 7 and an unfortunate constituent of Mike Gode. This is a usual dumpster fire we in East Baton Parish have become accustomed to. This school board is an abject failure. It started with the original superintendent search and has carried forward tonight to the detriment of our children he prefers to serve. And I am sitting here watching Mr. Smith actually wearing a mask during a global pandemic while 5 white board members in Miss Collins speaking to the air, carrying their viral load through this building without regard to anyone's help. Shame on you all. The only person leading on dais right now are the other board members and Mr. Smith. I wholeheartedly support Mr. Smith, and he's not only the most qualified person for the position, but also exhibiting leadership in the pandemic in the face of you maskless a lot. J.D. Lane, Mr. Blue, Mr. Gode, I guess this is Ms. Dyson, and Connie. Please stop being racist for our students. It seems that if every time we want somebody and they're black, we want the opposite. And come up with excuses. Stop it right now. The rest of the board, I love you. Brittany Davis, why would Mr. Smith's position impact the search when it did not impact the last search? As associate superintendent, he has much of the knowledge, classified information as superintendent. Paige Caldwell. As an educator in the EBR, I can attest to Mrs. Jackson's comments. We have been faced with failed leadership since Drake decided to retire. We have been led by the blind for so long. Your teachers are unhappy. We are overworked and stressed. We cannot get answers from our men. They do not have any. We do not feel like we're being listened to. Mrs. Smith is the only one who made the effort to hear us. I cannot believe you're listening to this. Rochelle Scott, at this time, it is very disheartening to see the lack of unity among our board. Yet, you are suggesting that we go on without true leadership. Mr. Smith has served diligently for our district in the leadership capacity. At this time, back and forth in showing our teachers, students, and parents that we don't have their best interests in mind. The team leadership approach has never worked for the district because it defies the status quo. We do not have a team that truly understands innovative practices. Now, while that can be developed in time, this is not a time to experiment. Therefore, as a leader, I ask that you appoint Mr. Smith to ensure that our district has some form of consistency and accountability for at least the next 6 months. Mr. Smith is culturally competent, academically sound, and business savvy. The choice is clear. Keith Wilson. Shame on some of the members of the board that have disrespected Associate Superintendent Adam Smith by attempting to bypass him for interim superintendent. Mr. Smith has been a loyal, very effective leader in the school system, and by recommending bringing back a past superintendent in lieu of accepting him as an interim is a disgrace and a slap in the face of a man who has given his sweat, blood, and career to the students of East Baton Parish. Shame on Mr. Gode and his cronies for, once again, putting personal politics over the best interests of every single child in this district. You should be ashamed, and I await competent challenges to the school board seats. Jane Smith, white board members just admit that you met ahead of this meeting and already asked Warren Drake if he would accept this position if you voted to appoint him. You are crooks and would rather go back to the time to see a black man serve in this position and to kind of ignore you an embarrassment to the community by the Asian community deserving an apology for your reference to COVID-19. You are racist and xenophobe and should not be served by Connie, by Mike, by Mark, by Mr. Chapman, by Jill, and by TBC John because you. Why we're in this position tonight? John Williams, Mr. Adam Smith, you're a better man than a leader
than me, because I would have gotten up and left a long time ago to endure the disrespect and racism being spewed at you tonight. Just know that I see you are worthy. You are a champion of our children, and we stand with you. But no one will be mad if you protected your own peace and walked out of these people deliberately setting you up for failure and embarrassment. Anne Marie Blank, we do not need Mr. Drake to come back. The comment I made earlier in support of Mr. Smith, the superintendent, goes true to his placement as interim superintendent. So I'll say again, Mr. Smith's tenure with the East Baton School System gives the direct institutional knowledge needed to hit the ground running in this temporary position. We need stability during this time. He knows our district employees know him, and he has a history of improving schools in our district. If the other candidates were scared off by his position as interim soup, then perhaps they aren't the caliber of person we need when they're in our district. Let them be. Earlier, Mr. Landon said that the parents take their kids to school, take their kids to schools that listen. He's absolutely right. Stop giving parents a reason to leave. Listen to us, appoint Adam Smith interim superintendent. He has experience. Just give him the job. Let Mr. Drake have his retirement and give him experience and a chance to do the job he's already applying for. Emily Cormier, it is a travesty of public required education that not a single board member has a child in the East Baton Parish school system. Adam has walked the walk and talked the talk. I am a proud product of the East Baton Parish public school system and even proud parent of this school system. Our children are our future. I have lived here my entire life. I have sent my children to the very same school that I benefited from educationally. I dare you to look at me in the face and tell me I'm uneducated. The only clear choice for this decision to be interim is Mr. Adam Smith. I implore every board member to appoint him interim and to conduct a robust national and local search for the superintendent. Thank you in advance for appointing Mr. Adam Smith. Fred Hampton. Y'all are lucky Mr. Smith is willing to take this position. To be fair, the students appoint this black man and pay him for the job he's already doing. Ella Terrence, as an educator, I've had the opportunity to take 2 years to research school systems all over the nation. Those that are failing and succeeding. With excitement, I return back to EBR to share many strategies, systems, innovative ideas that could take our children upward and learning our system forward. But here I am, seeing and listening to the same concerns of not putting students first. It is time for a change. It is time to move on. If you are not loyal to the students of EBR, it is time to step aside. Adam is a great leader to consider. Galen Mack, I am very worried about the EBR school district. This was a very easy and smart decision that has turned into a circus. Please call for the vote and place Adam in the superintendent seat. The board should consider taking time to retreat with each other prior to starting the next superintendent search. We need leadership for the district who can work together and support each other, even when there is disagreement. And the last comment for the night, Mr. Matthew Evans. Choose Mr. Adam Smith. He should have been a finalist for the original search. 3 decades in EBR, what more do you need? Hurry up, I have school.
There's one more. I don't know it. I'll read it. I think I lost it somewhere. Let's see, where did you leave off, sir?
Matthew Evans.
Joshua Warren is where you left off? Or Matthew Evans? Okay. Joshua Warren, please appoint Mr. Smith. It is because of him I personally strive as high as I did in the education arena by seeing someone who resembled myself, and now the students of this district should have the same opportunity. Not only does he know the district, he has the necessary skill sets and relationships to move the district forward. This is a no-brainer. Lily Black. This board meeting is a hot mess. You almost want to go viral again. Have you no shame that the nation has laughed and shook its head at this board already for its incompetence? Mr. Smith, I hope they're paying you the same amount as they paid Mr. Brown for doing this job. Get your check. That is the last comment I see, and I will refresh. And that closes the comments from the... There's one more? Where? From Missy Betts. Jill is racist and she wiped her hand off after I shaked her hand. Okay. The law says I have to read all the comments. With that, we close the comments. and I have lost track of who is next up on the request to speak. Ms. Bernard.
I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who came tonight to speak on behalf of Mr. Smith, and that I agree with 99% of you. Some people I think were not as much in favor of Mr. Smith as I was. When this dilemma was presented to the board that Mrs. Brown was retiring, my first thought was, we absolutely need Mr. Smith to step in and take over right now, because it's critical for our district. I was elected to represent my constituents. Sometimes I don't hear from my constituents, or I don't hear from very many of them. So I hear from my adopted constituents. And they are parents who have their children in the public school system who have my number. And some of them are faculty members, some of them are administrators, and they're all people that I respect deeply and care deeply for. So my starting point before I ever got to the meeting, and I don't like to decide before I come to the meeting or make a commitment before I come to the meeting, because something that someone says in the audience, or one of the online comments, or something that one of my colleagues says may influence me differently. So I was always for Mr. Smith. I also particularly appreciated the union representatives, Ms. Angela Reams and Ms. Augustus. Ms. Augustus, I remember growing up in my mom's household that she had to be out the door very early, sometimes before I did, to go to school because she was a school teacher and she didn't teach in our neighborhood. So she had to be at school on time for early duty sometimes. And I remember the late nights grading papers. I was grading papers I can remember as early as 4th grade, spelling papers, math papers, whatever she asked us to do, and putting up bulletin boards and staying at school late. So there were lots of late nights. I get it. I totally understand, and I very much appreciate every single one of you. I understand and appreciate the efforts that you go through. I didn't appreciate some of the accusations of bigotry and racism for our board members, because I won't own that. I'm not a bigot. I do realize and recognize that everyone has prejudices, because prejudice means prejudged, that you have a preconceived notion or a preconceived feeling. Just like I said, I decided before the meeting I had a prejudice toward Mr. Smith, a bias for Mr. Smith, because I work with him day in and day out, and he is the go-to person. I appreciate all of our staff, all of our administrators, and they have done a brilliant job in the absence of Ms. Brown, and they've all pulled together on the same team, kind of like a team of horses pulling the sleigh at Christmas time. So I just wanted to thank everyone for being here tonight and for your input, because I'm unequivocally for Mr. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bernard. Mr. Lannis.
Yes. One, I would just say, I think it's interesting talking about prejudice and things of that nature. When we have a board member that said Black Lives it's not about Black Lives Matter is not about Black lives. It's about Black people promoting Marxism. That board member still sits on this board. But that's for another conversation. This is what I will say. I do disagree with the notion that if Mr. Smith is named our interim superintendent, it's going to make people not want to come here. If you are the best talent, or you feel like you have what it takes to move our system forward, I think those people will come. But out of all honesty, after everything that has transpired tonight, after everything that has been discussed and everything that people are seeing, I think we're going to have a difficult time finding the best talent anyway. And the fact that Mr. Smith is still sitting here, after all the years that he's put in, after everything that he's heard tonight, after everything that's been seen, the fact that he's still here shows his commitment. But I want to tell you about somebody else that started off the same way. Ms. Charlotte Bassey started out, she was a CFO. She started off as an interim in 2004. Took on one of the toughest budget crises that EBR school system has ever seen, a $57 $1.2 million budget deficit. Turned the system around, and she was still treated as though she didn't matter. She was pushed out. This is common knowledge. And she talked about it after she got out of the office. That's not something that I want to see happen with Mrs. Smith. And I think that we need to move forward. I think the community has said enough. I think several board members have said enough. And if we feel as strongly as we say we do, vote for him. Double down. Put your money where your mouth is tonight, and let's show him how much respect we have for him. All the years of dedication he's given this system. But on top of that, I also want to bring up a common practice that has been used in the past. And it was a year and 1 day rule. And I just wanted to expound on this, so somebody please explain this to me, because it's come to my attention that we've used this before in the past as a common practice. And what it means is that if you have retired, quit, resigned, or were fired, you had to wait 1 year and 1 day before you could reapply. So is there anyone that can explain this? Because I know several teachers that went through the same process. They could not come back and reapply to be a part of our school system, or personnel could not be a part of our school system until 1 year and 1 day went by. And all I'll say is that that is true. Or if it was true, let's practice what we preach. If you're not going to do it for one person, you can't do it for another.
Is that complete, your? Yes, Ms. Dyson? You wait. I'm next on the list, and there's no one else after this in case you want to do it. I'd like to say a couple of things, because I've taken some slings and arrows here that I think are totally inappropriate. I am disappointed that we as a body and we as a public cannot have a discussion. The only reason we came into this meeting with 3 options. And the 3 options that we came into this meeting were to stay where we are, keep status quo. Mr. Drake had called us and offered his help if we needed it. So that was an option. And then the option of appointing Mr. Smith. My whole purpose in bringing up the two other motions was to make sure that we are a deliberative body and that we could discuss in a civil manner the pros and cons of these actions. And that was my only intent, is to be able to discuss in a civil manner how these actions could play out and what were the ramifications of them. And for that, we've had some people in the audience call us bigots. We've had some people in the audience call us clowns. And there was no ever intention of disrespecting Mr. Smith and everything that he has done. And I'm just really disappointed that we as a community and we as a board cannot have a discussion about issues and facts without resorting to calling people names. It really saddens me as we go forward in this. And I hope that coming into the future and coming into the search that we can do a better job as a community and as a board. And so with that, I'll close my comments. Seeing no other comments on the board, Madam Secretary, could you please conduct the vote? And for those who have forgotten, this is a vote for Mr. Drake as in. And it was requested for a roll call vote. I'm sorry, I forgot. It was a while back.
District 1, Mr. Blue.
Yes.
District 2, Mr. Lannis.
Nay.
District 3, Vice President Howard.
No.
District 4, Ms. Collins.
Nay.
District 5, Ms. Ware Jackson.
No.
District 6, Ms. Dyson.
No.
District 7, Mr. Godin.
No.
District 8, Ms. Bernard.
No,
District 9, Mr. Chapman.
No.
but I have a point of order. Mr. Gode made the motion. He cannot vote against his motion. It's in the rules.
Can I abstain?
I think you have to vote affirmatively for your
Okay,
motion
then I'll vote for
or
it.
withdraw it.
If that's
Which we just
a
voted on.
motion, I will vote for because of Robert's rule. Thank you, Ms. Bernard.
Motion carries.
The motion
fails.
fails. Thank you.
Right.
So now we move back to the original motion, which is to appoint Mr. Smith. as interim superintendent. Are there any comments from the board? Seeing none, are there any additional comments from the audience?
That is, Jim, please do the right thing.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board, from the audience?
I just strongly urge every single person here at the board to actually do what's right and affirm and appoint Mr. Adam Smith as our interim, and then eventually make him permanently our superintendent. That's what I ask. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you. Mr. Finch.
Thank you. This would be an awesome opportunity for a unanimous vote in this body. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finch.
I just want to reiterate my support for Mr. Smith.
Thank you. There is one more that came in from the internet. It's from Galen Mack, or Galen Mack. Call for the vote. The board is making things worse. Baton Rouge is being laughed at. Board training is needed for this board. How to run and manage a public meeting. Are there any other comments from the audience? Any comments from the board? I'm not on the... Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, I will call for a roll call vote. Madam Secretary?
District 1, Mr. Blue.
Yes.
District 2, Mr. Lannis.
Yes.
District 3, Vice President Howard.
Yes.
District 4, Ms. Collins.
Yay.
District 5, Ms. Ware Jackson.
Yes.
District 6, Ms. Diazin.
Yes.
District 7, President Godin.
Yes.
District 8, Ms. Bernard.
Yes.
District 9, Mr. Tapman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, can you hear me? Thank you, President Kodak. I would like to thank this board and the community for their support as well as their comment. It is an honor to be appointed interim superintendent for this district and to represent this district. I'm humbled that you have placed your trust and faith in me. This responsibility I do not take lightly. The team and I, we are committed to serving students of our community. And I want to assure you that any successes that I've had in this district, it was because of a team, and any failures was because of myself. And so, as we continue to prepare to get students back in our buildings safely, I want to say that I'm proud of our teachers, our principals, as well as our staff at large, because when COVID hit and the district was closed on March 13th, this staff never stopped working. Our cafeteria workers, they were the first to be on the front lines, ensuring that our students were fed. Many of our principals hadn't taken a vacation this year. They've been working around the clock. So I want to commend them for their commitment to our students. And I want to thank you guys for this appointment for tonight, no matter how long it is. But I want to say that this board, I've had the opportunity to work with each and every one of you. Each and every one of you. And I truly believe, based off the relationship and the work that we've done together, that each and every one of you are committed to all kids in this district. No matter if it's a constituent that's in the Tapman's district or Ms. Bernard, you guys always put students first. And I just wanted to say that for the overall community, because I've had the opportunity in my team to work with each and every one of you. It's always been about students first and the constituency at large. So thank you.
Next, we will go to the organizational items. Ms. Dyson?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Collins.
You
I'm
forgot,
sorry.
just that fast, you forgot. I want to thank my colleagues on the board for recognizing what I had long recognized with Mrs. Smith. Working with my colleagues on the board over the years of service here as a board member, I have been able to accomplish some things, some significant wins for my district. And I would be remiss if I wouldn't say that much of that has to do with the knowledge and wisdom of Mr. Adam Smith. Many people had mentioned that he is quite a humble man, and so then it often calls people in board leadership, as well as some folks in general community, to not recognize how strong of a leader he is. And so I'm personally very delighted that my first choice from the beginning is at least having an opportunity to serve in this capacity, and I look forward to us moving the district forward and carrying on the business of the district with someone that our staff and our parents place great confidence in.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Now, Ms. Dyson, would you please read the organizational announcements?
Yes. Our Oversight Committee meeting to be held on October 19th, 2020 at 5 p.m. at the Instructional Resource Center, IRC. Some or all board members may attend. Committee of the Whole meeting to be held on November 5th, 2020 at 5 p.m. at the Professional Development Center. Regular board meeting to be held on November 19th, 2020 at 5 p.m. at the Professional Development Center.